Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Gramm. Alongside me is Colin Camper and Billy Brant. On today's show, jammed-packed with full of content as we recap UFC on Fox 19. We will also pick the main card fights for UFC 197 this weekend. Also going to go over Bellator 153, which will be this weekend from Mohegan Sun. We're going to do a quick preview of that. We're also going to go over Bellator 152, which was this past weekend in Italy, the first overseas card for Bellator. Also, Risen FF1 happened with our good friend Darren Cruikshank, so we'll talk a little bit about that and some upcoming events for the Japanese promotion. Also, this weekend for Bellator, their kickboxing card will debut after Bellator 153, Bellator Kickboxing 1, which will be from Italy. It was actually either, I think, the day before or day after they had Bellator 152 in Italy, but they're showing it on delay for whatever reason. And, of course, we'll go over some of the top headlines in the world of mixed martial arts. Once again, I'm your host, Jim Gramm. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Gramm. Billy Brand, you can follow him on Twitter at WBrand21. How's it going today, Billy?
Ready to get to it, man. We got a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, we do. So much stuff. Colin, how's it going today?
Good. I feel left out. I don't have a Twitter, so I gotta get.
But you do run our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage Podcast.
What happened to your mustache?
You need to like right now.
It fell off. I had some issues with the State Department.
That was the best. One of our friends from MMAfreak.com retweeted the show, as he usually does, but then commented that Colin had a Pablo Escobar-esque mustache last week. So then that tweet got favorited and retweeted by a Pablo Escobar parody Twitter account.
I should have kept it. I'll grow it back for them. My wife was she didn't know who Pablo Escobar was when I told her, and then I explained it to her and showed her pictures, and she made me shave it off. But
I thought we finally had our break. I thought we made it to the top of Pablo Escobar parody accounts.
We'll be in next week, all three of us.
And also, boy, I forgot to mention, Glory 29 happened this past weekend, so we'll go over that. And also, Glory made some big announcements to their upcoming card, Glory 30, as well as the headline fights for Glory 31, which will be in June in Amsterdam.
Still no Detroit update.
That's so weird.
Still upset.
Amsterdam twice in a row.
All right.
Chicago? Sorry.
Colin, I'll let you want to start with Bellator or Glory first?
Let's go through Bellator. There's only 5 fights.
All right, let's do Bellator here first. Bellator 152 was this past weekend. Looking over kind of how the card went, it was, there were 4 finishes on this card. Don't get me wrong. It was, if you like finishes, it happened. But almost all the finishes, I would say, with the exception of the Sakara finish there over Brian Rogers, kind of lackluster. It kind of just like happened. Looking at the main card, he had Danielle Scozzese as he defeated another Danielle. That's weird.
Oh, spelled the same way too.
Wow, that's weird. Michelli knocked him out in the first round. Scozzese got that early takedown, got back, kind of flattened him out, landed punches. Got the finish there. And we saw the debut of the Russian Anastasia Yanakova, who Bellator is really hyping up as one of the next big thing in women's MMA. And I think she also eventually will do some kickboxing for Bellator as well. She takes on a girl who had never fought professionally in mixed martial arts, and Angela Pink, and Yanakova submits her in the first round.
Very impressive.
First 2 minutes. I mean, what do you expect is going to happen?
The good news is she did what she was supposed to.
It could have been worse.
That is the one positive.
If she choked, it would have been pretty rough.
They had that I forget her name, but remember that
Khabib?
Russian they had a couple of months ago, and that and she lost, and they were like, "Oh, this is a mom." Do you remember? Everyone's like, "Oh," I was like, "This was the other girl besides Yanakova they brought in." So it was the complete opposite of that, which I think was good for Bellator, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's I don't even want to talk about the main event. I'm mad at it, but
I'm surprised.
I like the Sakara knockout. That was
good.
Fun.
The AJ McKee fight was mostly relatively boring against Bellator, but then there was a low blow. McKee got hit. John McCarthy checked him out, and then McKee, I think he got pissed that it happened, and he just all of a sudden just wham came right at Bellator. He had no idea what was going on, and he just starched him in like 15 seconds after that break. And McKee kind of reminiscent of a Michael Venom Page a little bit for Bellator. Once again, Starch is a guy, and he's a guy in Bellator's probably most loaded division, featherweight division, that could be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he's only 21 years old, 3 or 4 wins now by knockout. I think a guy would be nice for him to take on would be a Justin Lawrence. I think would be an incredible.
I think
matchup.
that'd be a good
That
nice
matchup
step
would
up.
be really exciting.
I mean,
But it's Bellator. They're not going to give him a good matchup, just like Michael Venom Page, who's still fighting people we don't know. We'll talk about that.
But that was
later.
a good finish, and I'd like to see more of Mickey. I mean, 21 years old, that type of striking ability already. He's training with a great camp there at Rufus Sport, so he's a guy I'd like to see further.
hopefully he keeps it up. I mean, honestly, I would really like to see him in the UFC someday. And honestly, if he gets a good streak of just good, solid wins in Bellator, really just build up on experience.
Mhm.
So when you come over to the UFC,
Yeah, he's another one of like the crazy young pool of talent, 21 years old. That's really look forward to the future of the sport.
Now, this was to me the best fight of the night. Alessio Sakara against Brian Rogers. Sakara, I thought, looked really good. Brian Rogers, you would think for a guy that fought most of his career at middleweight, moving up his last couple at light heavy, you would think his conditioning would be a lot better. But it wasn't there. It failed him. He had that good takedown. He changed levels, landed some ground and pound. He might have stole that first round from Sakara. But in round 2, he just came out flat and was letting Sakara come right up to him with like straight elbows, punches, kicks, and Rogers didn't really have much of an answer. And you saw Sakara starting to tee off, and finally he just landed a big flurry there towards the middle of the second round, which saw him get the knockout win. And for Brian Rogers, I think it might be time to retire. I mean, you tried moving up, you tried a different weight class, you moved from strong style there with Jessica Ai and Stipe Miocic to our good friend Dustin Jacoby and Chris Camuzzi there at the Factory X in Denver, moved up a weight class. It just, I mean, I don't know. You just can't seem to get things working like he had a couple years ago.
yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're taking a KO loss to Alessio Sakara at this point in your career, you may as well just kind of call it a day. I mean, to be honest, and it was a brutal knockout too.
On the other side, what more does Sakara have? Like, you just keep fighting it out?
I mean, look at Brian Rogers since
He lost to Kramer.
2012. His last 3 years of Bellator, which is you could maybe make the beginning of the end. He's won 3 fights over Dominic Steele, Adrian Miles, and Virgil Zwicker, but he has lost 6 times, and of those 6 losses, only 3 were decisions. The other 3 were knockouts. So he's been getting knocked out too. It's not just simply like he's losing close decisions or whatever. Like he's getting beat in some of these fights. He's getting beat bad.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of fights over the past, 4 years to kind of be going on and off like that. Like you're losing, then maybe you'll win. Then you lose a bunch, maybe you'll win. It's like at that point when you're taking losses to Joey Beltran, and I mean, you kind of just got to hang it up at that point. I know a lot of guys, they try and wait for that career resurgence, but some dudes, I don't think it'll happen with.
No.
I mean, especially if you're trying to move up in weight.
All right, main event was awful. Patricky Pitbull. I think it would have been. I think honestly, if Derek Campos could have fought in this fight, he got injured, and we ended up seeing Eddie Souza. I think Derek Campos would have beat him. That Patricky Pitbull we saw in Italy just did not look very good. He seemed nervous. He seemed not like himself. He wasn't throwing power shots. He wasn't taking risk, and I don't know what Patricky Pitbull that was. I mean that was a different guy than we're used to seeing inside the Bellator cage.
Yeah, I think this is another case of just, what's going on with Pitbull at the moment. He's kind of been floundering back and forth. I feel, especially with just like getting a solid fight going. I mean, it's just a lackluster performance. I mean, I don't get excited for the Pitbull name as much as I used to anymore. I mean, honestly, now it's just like, oh, it's a nice little addition, but honestly,
Well, not the Patricky one. The Patricio one's pretty good.
Yeah, the other one's really good. And
brother.
everything. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people get the brothers mixed up and everything, and you would expect a lot out of
unfortunate.
Patricky. You would expect something good out of it too, but it's just like it's almost like he's just right on the curtails of what his brother brings.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't even exactly like Jim said. He just wasn't there.
Well, hopefully, maybe Derek Campos can get that match now.
hopefully,
I think that's a good addition. Speaking of Bellator announcements will stick before we talk about the kickboxing here. Bellator 158, the next excursion for Bellator abroad, will be in England. It will be the rematch between Josh Koscheck and Paul Daly, which was supposed to be, was that January this year in Fresno that it was supposed to be
think it was
before
January.
Koscheck injured out?
I think it was January or February. It's close to around those
So
times,
it goes
yeah.
from being in Koscheck's neck of the woods there in Fresno, California, to now Paul Daly's home country in England. So it shifts. So maybe a little punishment there for Koscheck injuring out. It will also feature James Thompson against Kimbo Slice. If you remember, they fought way back in the day in Elite XC when that was still a thing. And that will serve as the co-main event. And you may be thinking, hey, he still hasn't been cleared to return to action after the Dada fight. Not only that, he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. Well, Bellator don't care, first of all. Second of all, it's in London, and the British Athletic Commission or whoever runs the fights there in England, they really don't have to abide by anything that happened in the U.S. But as much as that, I find that okay, like them fighting in another country, I wonder if that will hurt Bellator's standing with some of the athletic commissions here in the States by doing this.
And look at Dada, man. They don't care about their standing with the athletic commissions right now. So they got Dada to get into a ring.
I guess they just have to do every fight in Texas, right?
Pretty
So
much.
they won't care. They don't care in Texas.
They just got to plan
Or
it out
Florida.
more carefully now.
Honestly, this is my favorite thing they've done, because if you had a little bit of hope left that they had a little bit of care, they do not. Like, to put Kimbo on this card after all that, they're really committing to this. I don't know.
Bellator, they're kind of doing like some like shady backyard, like they're like the high school kids who like got like the sped kids to fight in the hallway or in the locker room during gym and stuff, and like they're doing it like in the showers, and it's like you're not supposed to, but they're doing it anyway, and it's like that everyone shows up even though it's like morally messed up. So it's like I'm excited. I'm actually pumped about the Daly Koscheck rematch, mainly because I think Paul Daly's like one of the best just KO artists outside of the UFC. Like he's still got a lot of power. I mean, and he's so much younger than Koscheck. And ever since Koscheck fought GSP, he's just been like really protective of his eye. And so I don't like Koscheck, you know. And Thompson Slice is just going to be another goofy Thompson fight, or not Thompson Slice fight. I mean.
Well, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, both of them. Yeah, we'll be real there for a second. I'm expecting Tyson Fury to walk into the cage and start calling people out, to be honest. So.
Is there really a sell still for Kimbo though, after the PEDs and how bad that last fight is?
Because his name's in the media, man. The thing is, you'll see it and you're like, oh, hey, there's that Kimbo dude.
Well, I think the fact that he's fighting in England, if you grew up during when Kimbo was big, 10 years ago, and you were in England, you think, oh, he'll never come over here. This is your chance to see Kimbo Slice live and in person, and it's the first time Bellator has ever been here to England. So if you've been an MMA fan, you've been following Bellator, when are they going to come to me? Right. So I actually think, as far as a live gate, I think it will do really well. Will that translate into television views?
I mean, and we'll see how the rest of that card shapes up.
I was all on it, and I love it. I'll eat it up. I'll watch this, but after the Dada fight, going in there against someone completely and just putting on that performance, it's
I mean,
I feel like at this point it's turning more. People were like, "Oh, it's Kimbo. We're excited to let's watch how bad this could be."
I mean, I think what Kimbo fights have become now is just like you're going to watch it because you don't know what's going to happen, but you know it's going to be ridiculous and everyone's going to be talking about it. Whether it's a crappy Dada fight or him submitting Ken Shamrock, it's just like
until he loses, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you're just going to watch it because you never know. All he needs to do is land one punch, and everyone's like, "What just happened?" So.
Now, a couple weeks before that card in England, Bellator also announced their second Dynamite event, which will happen June 24th in St. Louis. So far, the only fight that has been announced is Rampage Jackson's return to the promotion as he takes on relatively unknown Satoshi Ishishi. It will also, once again, be half kickboxing, half MMA. With the debut of Bellator Kickboxing this weekend, you're probably going to see maybe some of those same faces there. I would imagine we'll see Joe Schilling on this Dynamite card. We may see Yanakova perhaps do some kickboxing as well. We may see, kind of like they did last time, where they have a couple MMA guys. Was that Gonzalez against Daly that fought?
Yeah.
And the so we may even see something like that where we see two of their current MMA fighters there. Not to mention, who knows who else they'll sign kickboxing wise to a deal. So I'm excited, but I want to see more than Rampage Jackson against some dude that he should be.
I was going to say, if you get Rampage back, why this?
Shouldn't it be Rampage Tito?
Anything, Tito.
Right?
I would have rather him fought Kimbo He's fighting a no-name.
They'll probably throw a bunch of weird names on there. They'll probably throw Vanderlei on there somewhere. They'll probably throw Tito on there.
that defeats the
probably throw
purpose, though,
Liam.
unless they're getting good fights
true,
for
but
each
I mean,
other.
they probably want to put as many names on there because the thing about their little light heavyweight division right now is they got so many big names. And if they match them up against other names, they could fit all those dudes on that card without having like wasting that golden ticket, so to speak. Because they could still use a Quentin Vanderlei card to sell something else later on.
I just don't know.
Dynamite's going to sell in itself because it's interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know how many people are going to tune in to watch Quentin versus nobody.
But I mean, how many people are going to turn in when you put like other names on there? So then you get Vanderlei on there, and then you get, probably Melvin Manhoef's probably going to end up showing up on there eventually anyway.
No,
so.
Melvin Manhoef crazy because he had the kickboxing match this weekend. He's scheduled to fight for the Bellator middleweight title in Idaho coming up in May.
Oh yeah.
So they kind of risked Manhoef, kind of like what they did with Joe Schilling.
Bellator's weird. Who knows? They're probably going to get
So-
something crazy. They're probably going to get Fedor over here and have Fabio Maldonado.
We'll see. I think that's
I
possibly real.
Could you imagine Rampage Fedor maybe?
Oh,
If
shit.
Fabio's doing it,
I heard they're signing Stone Cold Steve Austin actually. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would have rather anything than that. Just give him some sort of a fight.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. More will come, of course. As I mentioned, Bellator Kickboxing makes its debut here in Italy. It will be shown right after Ben Henderson takes on Andrei Korzhikov for the Bellator Welterweight Championship. Main event, the aforementioned Melvin Manhoef. He will be taking on Alexandru Negra, who's 8-2. Also, Mustafa Haida, I get he's more one of the higher ranked guys, taking on Kareem Gaji. 95-12 is Kareem.
that's season.
Pretty impressive. Raymond Daniels, also a very well-known kickboxer, actually fought in Glory, I believe. He will be taking on Francisco Maraca. Denise Kieltz against Veronica Vernocchi in a women's flyweight match. And then the kickoff card will be Kevin Ross against Matteo Cecchini at bantamweight. So I'm excited for Bellator Kickboxing. I mean, it's cool of Melvin Manhoef to take this fight when he's preparing for a world championship in MMA. You would think he wouldn't want to do that, but he's Melvin Manhoef. He don't care, I guess.
I just don't.
We'll see how that goes.
Why the
They tape delay. Yeah, it really doesn't make any
The
sense.
fights, for those who are listening who may not be aware, the fights just happened Saturday. The results are already in.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's such a risk of just it being spoiled already anyway, and just like
No, no one was there.
yeah, but it's just like
I ain't seen
why?
a spoiler yet.
It's like why the tape delay? Because obviously the kickboxing fights must have taken place at the same time, right before the MMA event in the same venue. I'm assuming.
I think it was like one was one day. Yeah, it was the same arena.
So it's like
the
it's
same
kind
arena.
of
Yeah,
like their own little
absolutely.
Dynamite thing, but instead of airing
Basically.
it as a Dynamite, they just recorded half of it and said we'll just show it later. I don't get the point. You have that many fans already there for a Bellator event.
Yeah, and
it's
this
like,
is not 1976 where
Right,
you
well,
tape delay stuff.
right. It's not
People
like
want stuff live.
the internet is a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand
We're
that.
in a 24/7 world.
could
There are no time zones. You watch
I
it
could
when you
probably
watch
look it up on my phone right now.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, not only is it on tape delay, they're not airing it until after the Henderson Korzhikov fight.
Everything about it was bad.
Why air your fight at like midnight
I'm gonna be
on a
honest.
Friday?
They should show it before the fight
Yeah.
Hell,
as the lead-in,
Save it for the next day. Okay?
or save it for the
Yeah,
next day.
save it
Either
for-
way,
Put it up on a Saturday evening or like afternoon at like 12 o'clock or whatever. The fight's already like recorded. Throw it up on Spike at some point during the day. It's like, why put it that late at night when people are coming home from already either being out and
now
going to sleep?
if they were showing the replay of Bellator Kickboxing after 153, no problem.
Right,
Re-show
but
it.
the initial showing
re-announce
makes no
it. But yeah, the
sense.
live showing should have been the same day.
So anyway, for our listeners who don't want to stay up that late anyway, we're going to do a full coverage of it.
DVR it.
Yeah, and we'll just tell you the results. Don't
On a
even worry.
side note to look forward to, Melvin Manhoef be exciting. Raymond
Yes.
Daniels probably had one of the best knockouts in all of Glory.
Raymond Daniels is very good. That was a big sign for
That's
Bellator,
probably one
I'm
of the
being
strongest ones I've seen they did sign.
So.
And look out for him. Yeah, look out for him.
Maybe they didn't air it live because they didn't want to compete with Glory. Because Glory was in the middle of the day also.
Yeah, but I mean, Glory was on streaming ESPN3 though.
Yeah, but I mean, still, Glory was airing in the middle of the day. around the
Yeah,
same
but if
time
you're a
these
fan of
fights were
kickboxing, when you're gonna
both.
watch both. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But I
we're
mean,
gonna watch
but for
both.
them, okay, the thing is,
Exactly.
though, because the deal's a Spike, they're looking for the Spike views. That's why Spike dropped kickboxing in
Are
the
they
first place.
expecting
Well,
Benson
yeah,
to
but-
draw on that much that after people just stay around and
Yeah, that
watch
doesn't
him?
make sense. I mean, this
I don't
isn't the
know.
UFC where like people watch football on a Sunday and they're like, "Oh, UFC's up next. Let's bleed it over. Let's keep watching." This is
I mean, that's
Bellator
their
on a
hope.
Friday night
that's their hope.
at midnight. Whatever. I'm done
Like
with this.
Jim said, I would have 10 times rather they say, hey, before Benson takes on whatever, check out our new kickboxing event and lead it in. So if you got time to kill beforehand,
That's crazy.
whatever,
I mean,
anything.
and also, this is a 15-fight card of Bellator. A 15-fight card.
We got some good names on this undercard. We got Matt Bissett against Keith Richardson. That leads into Chris Honeycutt against Matt Secor. Brett Primus against Glairstone Santos, and then Michael Venom Page against Jeremy Holloway.
Yeah, Holloway fights a good
Brendan
one.
Ward against Cyborg Santos, the male Cyborg Santos, for those of you wondering. Though it might not make much of a difference. It'd be probably pretty close.
The good Pitbull.
The good Pitbull against, Henry Corral. We've talked about Henry Corrales many times in the show. Corrales is on a very nice streak here in their stacked featherweight division. Besides losing to Pat Curran, I'm thinking of a different guy. I was thinking of Emmanuel Sanchez. Never mind. Lose my point. Forget about it. Pitbull should be Henry Corrales. I thought they were giving him Emmanuel Sanchez.
That's how important Bellator is.
Here's the thing. Wouldn't that made a lot more sense to give Emmanuel Sanchez the guy on the streak? Patricio Pitbull.
Bellator doesn't make any sense. We just covered this 30 seconds ago, man. Nothing makes sense. I'm pretty sure they just throw darts at a board.
Now, again, no offense to Jeremy Holloway and Cyborg Santos, but Brendan Ward should be fighting Michael Page, not a washed-up guy and some nobody.
Yeah. He's coming off a submission loss. It's
Jeremy Holloway. Yeah, didn't he fought? Who was that fight against?
Matt Secor.
Yeah, and Matt Secor's on the undercard, and
it's bizarre to me that they. And how many times?
I just said his name too. Yeah,
in a row in Bellator.
And then Cyborg Santos has not fought since. Well, he actually fought in Legacy earlier this year,
a couple months ago.
But before that,
it
was 2 years.
And then before that, a year.
Gringo Super Fight, where he got
hilarious.
knocked out by Melvin Manhoef in 46 seconds.
Dog, I can't believe Jordan Main beat the crap out of him either. So yeah, Cyborg Santos doesn't fight.
He's only fought
often.
4 times in the last 5 years. I mean, he's 20-16. He's 38 years old. I mean, no, Brendan Ward should just walk right through him.
Yeah. I mean, once again, I don't understand Bellator, but I mean, I think they're just trying to work with what they got. You know, they just got something.
Here's the thing, Brendan Ward. If Brendan Ward again should win, Michael Page should win. I think we finally see Brendan Ward and Michael Page.
Michael Page has had.
I've been wanting this fight for like 2 years.
I think that's what they're doing. Is they're taking guys who they know will win, so that way. Because if they pair their 2 good guys against each other, if they put Page and Brendan Ward, now they have 1 less fight on the card, and then they could put 2 nobodies fighting each other, or they could have their good dudes fight a nobody and then get the hype build.
But if you fought Cyborg Santos against Jeremy Holloway, what's the difference?
I think exactly.
Because then if Brendan Ward and Michael Page fought, that's a possible headliner. They're trying to build up the names. That way, Michael Page could do.
Michael Page is 4-0, finished almost, I think, every opponent.
But who's all hype on this right now? Us. I don't see a lot of people clamoring about it. That's the thing.
That's because he's putting cans. You put him in a big fight.
Keep him going because you know what? He's just etching up on the card. And people saying, "Oh wait, I remember this dude from last time. He's kind of crazy."
Look at his record.
Remember him
to me, legitimately, Nashan Burrell's the only decent guy he's fought in Bellator.
It's ridiculous.
And that was a decision. Notice that was his one fight where he did knock the guy
fought
out.
Ryan, man.
Oh my God, we work with one of our coworkers is named Ryan Sanders. So that's crazy. We'll tell him about that. All right.
So this main event though.
Let's get to let's actually break down this main event as a legitimate fight. All right. Last time Andrei Korzhakov took on a guy with good wrestling, he got the crap beat out of him by Ben Askren. And actually, to Ben Askren's credit, Ben Askren got the finish of that fight and actually finished Andrei Korzhakov with some very, very nasty elbows.
By the way,
Ben Askren, in case we don't, Ben Askren got a win this weekend.
Yeah, he just won Friday, just in case people don't know. Very lackluster, but I mean, he won like a beat.
So
it's what you expect.
Has Andrei Korzhakov's grappling game developed enough that he can stop a guy like a Benson Henderson?
I don't think so. I think Benson Henderson, the problem is if he was going against a guy who was older and had a grappling game, sure, I could see Korzhakov developing enough of a game to kind of have a better edge against a guy who's possibly older. Problem is Benson Henderson, you can argue right now, is still in his prime. He might be 32, but he's in a really decent prime, especially coming out of the UFC and beating 2 decent welterweights in the UFC. His only losses are like champion tier dudes. I mean, Donald Cerrone is a perennial contender. Dos Anjos is the current champ. And then before that, what was it? Anthony Pettis was where he lost the title. And before that,
Cerrone
Anthony
fight.
Pettis. That's what I'm saying.
Cerrone fights. I mean,
yeah, and even then, you could argue he won that Cerrone fight. So it's like Benson Henderson is a very, very well-rounded and solid fighter. it's a tough fight for
Koreshkov's
a lot of
seen
people.
nothing like this.
And if you have a weakness on the ground, Henderson is the kind of guy, he kind of fights like GSP, where he's not afraid to exploit your weakness, even if it means not being as exciting.
And for Koreshkov, his last fight, did he go all 5 rounds? Yes. Was that big for him going a full 25 minutes? Yes. But you can tell he started to fade a little bit. Lima did as well, so it's not like he was, struggling of losing. But I think he can't do what he did against Douglas Lima. He can't employ that strategy. But if it goes into the 4th and 5th rounds, you have to credit Ben Askren, regardless of how the fight, or Ben Henderson.
Well, credit him too.
Right.
Well, first,
but regardless of where the fight goes, but if it stays standing, which I don't think Ben Henderson really entertains that. You don't mess with Andrei Koreshkov on the feet. It doesn't end well. It hasn't ended well for anyone who's tried it. So I think Ben Henderson and John Crouch, they're the guys at the lab. I think they'll know to not mess with this guy in the feet. He's going to be in Koreshkov's face, clinching, taking him out, making him uncomfortable for 25 minutes. Maybe he gets a submission, but unless Koreshkov just drastically improved in his takedown defense and his conditioning, he has that, if he doesn't get him in the first, if he doesn't give him like a one-shot, quick, kind of coming out, like you mentioned RDA, Billy, I don't know if he can win this fight.
Here's the thing. Koreshkov loses against guys named Ben. All right. And what I'm going to put out there, though, is another thing. Koreshkov's a really good champ over in Bellator.
He's an animal.
Here's the thing right now. It's going to be, I think, a big wake-up call for all the fighters in Bellator, these world champion fighters. They're about to see a showcase, and Koreshkov's going to taste what it's like to fight a UFC caliber champion, actually come over in his prime because of contract disputes, not because he's washed up and he's on a losing streak. Mm-hmm. It's because of contract disputes and money. And so Benson is coming over now in his prime and is about to put a whooping. I mean, this is no offense to Koreshkov.
Here's another fair
but
thing,
it's
though.
like,
say we say Koreshkov hasn't seen nothing like Benson, UFC, whatever. Is Koreshkov the best 170er Benson's ever seen?
I would say yes.
I think you can make the case because
Thatch had a hard time. And then Jorge
Masvidal is basically
good,
just another 155er that didn't cut weight like
so
him.
The Masvidal don't really count that one. That was more of a.
But I mean, and so that's what
I think so, because Koreshkov definitely has more knockout power than Jorge Masvidal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awfully apparent.
Benson,
and he's bigger. I mean, 6 foot at 170. There aren't too many 6-footers fighting at 170.
I think Benson's dipping to 170. People a little overlooked that the Jorge one wasn't really a 70.
I think what makes me more confident, though, is the fact that he fought a dude like Brandon Thatch's size and was able to mitigate that size disadvantage pretty well.
Right.
The thing about Benson Henderson is he's super athletic.
Yeah.
And he moves really, really well.
And
he's a grinder, too.
And the only reason he lost that Pettis fight is because he got taken down. Like, he went to the ground early, and there's a quick submission.
Some guys just have your number.
It's
a weird thing. You see it in baseball a lot. Certain hitters do well against the worst hitter on one team's like the best against like a Cy Young guy, or the best pitcher just can't, or the worst pitcher's really good against the team's best. It's kind of one of those weird things in sports.
You gotta think of
some guys have their number.
One of the biggest highlights in MMA, this guy did to you. With the Pettis and Benson.
And then now you just became a highlight reel again. It's like it's a drag, but it's like
it's a good fight though.
We can talk about this
the
fight forever, but honestly,
it's a good fight.
This is the fight to watch. I mean, I think this is what Bellator is hoping, is that so many people would get hyped on this fight, they would just immediately just cut right into the kickboxing and people would just bleed over.
All right. Well, real quickly, let's talk about Rizin FF1 happened over in Nippon, Japan. Well, for most people in America, it did. But it did happen in Japan. Our good friend, Darren Cruikshank, the Detroit superstar, we hope to have him on to talk about this. Made his debut as he took on Shinji Sasaki, knocked him out in the first round through a barrage of different kicks and knees and a couple straight rights, but it was the straight right there at the end is the one that did in Sasaki. Darren followed up with a couple other strikes, and the referee came in to stop this one at the 4:36 marker just before the end of the first round. And Darren looked like he had been fighting in a ring his whole life. It looked like he had been used to the knees and kicks to a ground opponent his whole life. I feel like if you would have known that this guy came from a lot more rules against these strikes, you thought he would have been more apprehensive. But you didn't see that all from him. He looked at home.
The way
there in
Darren
Japan.
is, and he fights off this sort of instinct, I feel like this is a way better fit for him. When I see him lose in the UFC, you kind of feel like, oh man, that stinks. I feel like he found a way better home here. I feel like Darren's really going to shine in this organization.
I mean, especially over here where it's just like, I mean, it's no offense to Japan, but Japanese quality fighters, sometimes they just don't tend to fare as well in the UFC. And so, once again, you got another case of a UFC fighter in their prime going to a place where they can mop up easy. And I feel like we were just talking last week. We were saying, hey, a big factor of Darren Cruikshank being over here is that soccer kicks are allowed. And he won with a soccer kick. Even though there was the punch beforehand that dropped him, the dude was out. But the fact is that there was no hesitation with it either. Though he was just comfortable in there. I mean, he looked like he fought, Japanese MMA pretty much his entire life.
It really amazed me how, without a thought, he threw those.
He looked
green. Quick.
He looked good on the ropes too, coming back in and everything. That didn't, because I know there's a big different factor between fighting on ropes and fighting against the cage.
Absolutely,
and
there's a big difference.
He's just
coming angles and everything. Because you can back a guy into a corner in the ring. You can't do that really in the octagon.
Even being up against the ropes, he angled it really well and he got out of it. And I think it was a very good fight for him. And he's playing up the character really well with the mustache.
He looked like a mini Don Fry.
He looked like a mini. He did look like a mini Don Fry. He's playing up his walk-in was hilarious and great. And
amazing.
He's that super macho American guy.
And then he called out Shinya Aoki,
which is
after the fight as well.
I'm all about that fight. I want it to happen. Japan probably wants it to happen. They probably love Darren. They're probably buying Darren t-shirts right now.
The thing is, I'm not that well versed with Rizen's roster. I don't think anyone over there can strike with him.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think a lot
Aoki's a very impressive grappler, but
which is why this is the only good match.
Anytime he's taken on guys that have kind of been near the top, he went 1-1 against Eddie Alvarez. He submitted him in the first round. Then Eddie knocked him out in the first round of the rematch in Bellator. Then he fought Gilbert Melendez, if you remember, back in Strikeforce. That's when Strikeforce had that deal with Dream to kind of share guys a little bit. And Gilbert Melendez ended up beating him in a five-round decision.
This is what's going on with Rizin right now is they're trying to put not so much as make it a legit MMA organization, because over the past weekend the fight card was actually like 7 kickboxing fights, a couple MMA, a shoot boxing fight, and a tag team grappling match. They're going for more of the entertainment value for people in Japan to just come out, spend money. Japan's a really relaxed crowd. They just want to watch some competitive sports and have fun. They don't care about rankings. They don't care about this. They want to see someone, get emotionally attached to them right in the spot, and say, you know what, I want that guy to win with the mustache. I'm not American, but this is what I think all Americans are like. I love this because he's a heel.
Well, put that aside, and then just how he fights.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like Japan just wants exciting stuff. That's why Rizin probably snatched him right away, is because that's all they're going for. They're not going for a UFC, Bellator, Glory kind of thing with rankings and legit world titles. They want excitement and just fun for like an evening out. Well, I think I'm putting my hat in right now for this call. We're going to see Darren Cruikshank versus Fedor Emelianenko within 2 years.
Well, what would be, speaking of Fedor, he is rumored to be taking on Fabio Maldonado for the next Rizin event.
Exciting
summer,
fights.
Which will coincidentally not be in Japan, will be in Fedor's home country,
the Japan of
Russia.
Rural Asia, which is Russia.
A good co-main event could be Darren against Aoki.
Would be amazing.
I would take it, dude. I swear.
Fedor Darren Fabio Namadado.
Moldababo?
Yeah. Moldababo. They're fighting in the Kremlin. That's all I know for Vladimir Putin, who's wrestling a bear beforehand. So
they're fighting in an old decommissioned missile silo.
Right. The main event is actually Vladimir Putin versus Western
bear.
Democracy.
No,
so
it's actually Putin versus the bear from The Reverend.
Right.
Would be the co-main event.
The winner gets Leo's Oscar. So.
My goodness. All right.
Hey, real good on Darren though. Side note, just for calling out the one thing that people think his weakness would be. That's the toughest matchup for him.
Yeah. He called out,
and I think he can win that fight because Aoki has a weak chin.
Because he could have easily went through a bunch of cans and just outstruck everyone. Been exciting. So good on him for that.
All right, let's get to Glory 29 this weekend as we transition Copenhagen, the organization's first event in Denmark. Looking over the undercard just real quickly, the big headline fight, Zach McQuesca taking on Hammerlane. McQuesca looked good. I hope he fits in with that light heavyweight tournament they just announced for Glory 31. So I think he's a fit. They're still looking. I think they had 2 spots left open. I think he would be perfect. Possibly former champion Calavari for the other one. We'll see, but I think McQuesca earned that with a nice sound division. Yeah, that Gregorian Suarez fight. only lasted 1 round.
Just
but
turn off. Okay,
my
look,
goodness.
Thank you for listening to the show. Turn it off, pause it, whatever. Get on Fight Pass. You don't have one, I'll give you my credit card information after this. Get on there.
Your credit card. Wow,
Just
that's a full claim.
watch the Gregorian Suarez fight. It can be found on Fight Pass. If you don't want to watch anything else, just watch that. It's 5 minutes of your time. It'll be the best thing you've watched all week. I promise.
I hope Gregorian gets that spot in the welterweight tournament that they're going to have.
After that, I wouldn't be surprised. That was a good performance, honestly. It
I
was a nice come from
Yeah,
behind.
I misspoke. The light heavyweight tournament's going to be at Glory 30, so that's where McQuest. Glory 31 will be the welterweight tournament, which they already announced. Myrtle Gronhard is 1 spot. I think Gregorian could get the 3rd spot very easily, and then the 4th spot should be for the winner of that contender tournament they're doing at Glory 30, which features Casey Green, Zach Abraham, a couple other guys, but the winner gets a guaranteed spot in that welterweight tournament.
It's hard for me to get my hopes up though, because that's kind of how I felt about Insante going into the heavyweight tournament, and then you never know where they're going to be at.
That's true. I think Insante will get someone good. And then I got to talk about the Zingano Oliveira fight. I have never seen that many knockdowns in one fight. It ended up being
trading.
7 knockdowns between the two
if you
guys.
like that first fight I just told you about, okay, now go watch Oliveira and Zagana.
Yeah,
and then you can come back, give back my credit card.
Zagana ended up winning.
It was good.
There were 2 questionable knockdowns called by the referee in this one. One went for Oliveira in his favor against Zagana. It was kind of a lower kind of kick. Maybe could have been considered a sweep. Zagana did take a knee. Referee called it. Then the final one was a kick. I believe it was a kick. It was looked kind of low. I don't know. He kind of backed up for a second, then took a knee. It looks like the referee is going to do the sweep sign there. Ends up then calling it 4th round, 4th knockdown, which then means Zagana automatically wins for the 4th knockdown in a round. And it was just it was an incredible fight. Don't get me wrong. I think that to be the fight ending one, you gotta be sure it's a knockdown. And I would have liked the referee to let that one go a little longer, because wasn't it like 20, 30 seconds into that round?
Yeah,
I would have liked. I don't know if I would have called that one a knockdown.
It's just, I think the big thing is he's got a lot of pressure. The ref has a lot of pressure just for fighter safety. And with how many knockdowns went back and forth in this fight, at that point, and now it's just more like, okay, was it actually like a legal blow, or maybe it was just like a grazing one, but this guy's so winded and beat up from the previous ones. Maybe I should just call it. Might just be safer. I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on refs worldwide right now, just because a fighter recently died. Even though the stoppage was fine in the fight, I mean, the fighter still ended up suffering a brain hemorrhage, and it's just like, now I think there's just a lot of refs just like globally, their job is fighter safety, number 1. And it's just like, I think there's just a little caution going on right now. And so when a fighter, regardless what happens, when you take like a knockdown consistently, you run the chance, even whether it's fair or not. I agree with you. Like, maybe it could have just like not stopped the fight, but it's
Do you
tough.
ever think it'd be insane or near impossible, but like when controversial stuff, like even the main event, will get to that with knockdowns like this, there'd be like an instant replay?
I think that's a future. I really
It has
do.
to be, and we'll talk about the Holtzkin fight. There's just so many controversial calls.
I feel like, I think that'd be just a perfect thing to add. Not even just
Maybe
for
you
like
can add like a
knockdown.
judge's overrule
I mean,
or something.
even
like
for
if the judges
penalties,
do, like, a
even
quick
if like
vote,
maybe.
For eye poke stuff.
Yeah, just like that. So maybe even like replays after the fight. It's like, hey, you know what? In further review, even though it took a couple minutes longer, you can say the judges are only going to score the fight at the end of the fight. If it goes that far, you can say, hey, look, we've been viewing this for 5 minutes. This was illegal. Take a point when you put this down.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kinks to work out. It's not just so cut and dry, but I think a replay system. I mean, every other sport that uses it, NFL, soccer, baseball, everything that uses a replay system has had nothing but success.
I mean, baseball's even using now, and who would have thought that?
Right.
I
mean,
mean, they were like the longest.
But I mean,
to
and
adopt
I think
it,
baseball is like one of the more important ones too. I mean, not to start talking about baseball. Point being, replay system.
Right.
Yeah, I think our fans just fell asleep about baseball.
Let's get to the main card, starting heavyweight tournament in its entirety. You had Jafar Wilness, Anderson Silva, Ismail Lant, and the newcomer to the whole thing, Kornilov, who kind of was almost like a last-minute entry here into the tournament. Kirill Kornilov. He got Jafar Wilness. Wilness won. Kornilov, you could tell, just wasn't at Wilness level. I think Wilness, had this just been a one-off bout, it wasn't a tournament, I think Wilness probably would have knocked him out, but I think Wilness was kind of saving up. You could tell maybe holding back a little bit. And then in the Silva-Lant fight, Silva looked really good in the first round. I thought he was throwing some great combinations. He had those low kick. Lant seemed kind of slow to start, And then in round 2, you saw Lance starting to kind of land with a couple of those flying knees he was throwing. His kicks were starting to land. You could tell he was the heavier hitter of the two, and I think that started to wear on Silva. By round 3, Silva was kind of just hanging on. He didn't have much left in the tank there. And then getting to the final, I thought Wilness, again, Lawton had a slow start. I thought Wilness looked really good. Second round was close. I probably would have gave it to Wilness. I think his combinations were still coming. And then in the third round, once again, Lawton, I think maybe knew that he probably needed to win this round if he wanted any chance of winning this fight. And I thought really turned it on. Wilness started to fade a little bit, and you really saw Lawton shine in that third round. And I think that maybe swayed the judges a little bit, and he got that split decision to win the heavyweight tournament and take on Rico Verhoeven later this year.
I mean, I think we were all correct on the Wilness pick the first time around, first fight.
Yeah.
And then the second one, we were all pretty unanimous on Silva after his re-showing.
We were, actually.
And then Lant came out, surprised me. I think what surprised me more from Lant is just the fact in the Wilness fight, even though that fight could have been really either way, I kind of had it Wilness, but I could see Lant
I had it Wilness as well. Mm-hmm.
He threw nothing but consistent bombs all night. Just he was throwing power. And
oh my God, those 2 uppercuts he landed in the third.
Dude, he was throwing,
and they were in a row.
6 rounds in one night.
Yeah, he threw that first one, and you thought, all right, Wilness is going to back off, right? And you almost kind of see Lawton like, I guess we'll throw it again. And he just goes right up the gut, man.
That's kind of what you want to go up against Rico Verhoeven. I'm not going to lie, because that's a tough fight. I still think Rico's the best fighter in Glory right now.
Probably.
And, I mean, especially at heavyweight. I mean, it's a heavyweight fighter. You kind of need someone who's able to consistently – I know there's a space between both fights, but for 3 straight rounds to really just keep the pace and the pressure going, even though it's not fresh going into those rounds like a first round, the thing is he's still able to do it. And, I mean, that's kind of what you want to go into this fight, to give something new to Verhoeven. Otherwise, you're kind of out of options here to really have that
question. Do you honestly think Lant poses a threat to Verhoeven?
I don't – Lant after the fight said he only fought at 40%. I don't know if that's true or
40?
what, but he's going to have to up it up like 100%.
And then
140 to try to beat
Rico's
Verhoeven.
Something different. And then on top of that,
you can't slow start against Rico.
No,
so that's the thing.
Is anyone fighting at 40%? Let's be honest.
I don't know. That's what he said.
Maybe that guy.
Maybe he was just excusing for.
Anderson Silva, though, I think a big fact, because I was kind of surprised, because after his latest showing where he just leg kicked.
He went away from that. He really did.
I think, I mean, maybe I'm just talking out my butt about this, but I know he just had his first MMA bout announced. I think it's like May 13th or something like that.
Maybe it swayed his focus.
I think, yeah. I mean, focusing on 2 camps or 2 fights. I mean,
That's
he fights next
point.
month.
That's true.
You know, I mean,
Could be.
really, like, what's more important to him? Is MMA debut or just, another tournament?
And he has to be putting a lot of grappling into his training now, switching over to the MMA.
Exactly. So it's like, maybe he's just in a different mindset, a different rut coming to the ring, where it's just not pure focus on kickboxing. Now he's sitting there, and he might be analyzing things different while, he's
right
against his opponents. Regardless, I think Lant's honestly a fresh view, though, just for something different happening.
Absolutely.
I mean, Wilness would have been nice. Silva would have been nice.
We'll probably see Wilness Silva next.
Yeah. So, I like Lant going in there. It'll be interesting to see.
With that being said, though, this is kind of off topic. Are you a fan of when people switch back and forth, or do you feel it takes away at a level like this?
I don't mind them switching back and forth, but I think, like Colin said, I don't like the fact that he has an MMA fight booked at the same time period he's training for this tournament.
That's an issue.
If you want to run through this tournament, book an MMA fight, come back to Glory, that's fine. But you shouldn't be booking things before you have another fight.
I feel like
I'm not a fan of that.
I feel like
really
we saw that
not.
issue with Pat Schilling and the few times where he got surprised, like, the random KOs.
Joe Schilling,
yeah, Pat
Well, that's
Schilling,
the thing.
Joe Schilling, yeah.
I was going to bring up that next. That Cato fight, I think that never happens if he's just focused
Right,
on
and
one
that's
thing.
what I'm saying. It's just like when you go from, like, something that's so dialed in as kickboxing, where I agree, kickboxers are probably the deadliest strikers out there combat wise, because you're just honed in on nothing else. You're not worried about the clinch. You're not worried about the takedown.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to worry about your spacing and what you're going to throw next and what he's going to throw. Whereas MMA, the camp is completely different, and your instincts and your twitches and all that stuff.
Right.
You're doing different reactions, So now, going to a kickboxing fight while you're training MMA in the gym, it's like, oh, he goes to throw a kick, but you're thinking he's telegraphing possibly a takedown. It's like you're going to twitch
and
differently.
you're using different gloves.
You're going to twitch instead of checking the kick. You might actually go to, like, kind of sprawl instead. And so it's like, it's a different kind of sense. We could like I said, there's so many things we could talk about this fight, break it down, but I feel like once we start seeing it happen more, we'll keep talking about dual training. But let's talk about this guy.
Sergey Adamchuk, on 3 days' notice, gets a call that the co-main event spot for Glory 29 would be available up a weight class from his featherweight championship class.
Take notes, McGregor.
And would he want to take it against the guy who has over 120 professional fights in Denmark's own? Yeah, not only that, you got to take the home country guy on in Elmere. What is his answer? Sure.
Yeah, it was in his native tongue, which is whatever it is. He took 3 days.
Probably Russian.
I think it's Russian.
I don't think Ukraine has its own language, right?
I think it's Russian.
I think they just speak
yeah,
Russian.
So he gave a Russian.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they
then
just speak Russian.
He took 3 days to prepare for the fight, and at night he was studying English so that way he could speak to the crowd.
He's talking to Big Mike.
Yeah,
gotta love Big Mike in his corner.
And so he got some English down and everything. He probably spent more time preparing for the English than this fight. McGregor, take notes. This is how you move up from a featherweight position as a champ,
and he dominated
and just put on a clinic.
Oh man,
an absolute showcase. Now I'm hyped because I want to see a super fight between Adamchuk and
Van Hoosman. Oh well, we'll get to Sitsong Pion, but I legitimately think he could be Glory's first 2-division champ.
That's what they need. That's
I know
what this sport needs.
I know it was short notice. I know El Hamir's maybe not the best guy he could have taken on.
3 days notice.
But I legitimately think give him his next fight, probably maybe give him a featherweight defense. Yeah, I think that's fair. After that, give him a top 10, maybe like a Josh Jancy. You know, give him a top 55er. See how he does. If he wins again, I'm all for a super fight, man. I'm all for it. I think that's great.
Is for.
If you can have Glory have a guy like Adamchuk compete at 2 different weight classes like that. I think that's huge.
If he can get a second belt, I would honestly
I think he can do
it. Bigger than Nicky Holtzkin. He'd be bigger than Rico Van Hoeven. If he can hold
he might
two
be
belts,
one of the only guys that could do it right now.
He might be the only combat sports fighter who could probably hold 2 belts at once. With the showing he put on, that was impressive.
I think he's definitely the only one in Glory that could do it right now.
Yeah, definitely in Glory. I mean,
and I do agree that it would only help Glory. Whenever you get an extreme winner, that's when people start paying attention.
When you could put marketing like that out, and you could show a guy with 2 belts on, 2 belts.
Those
the more your face shows up on that homepage, the more people are like, oh, wait a minute, this guy here's twice.
Way more than this.
Anyways, it was very reminiscent of his win most recently against the Jaguar. Everything was crisp. Everything was right down the pipe. His opponent couldn't hit him. El Amir would come forward. He would miss with a big shot, 3 or 4 shots. Amir would come forward again, miss 3 or 4 shots. It was like clockwork how good this guy's combination is. And that's why I think he has a chance against Van Hoosmalen if he comes out of the Sitsong fight, or even Sitsong himself. Because his combinations are just so crisp and so on point, and he knows how to not get hit, which is such a big thing. And up a weight class, his conditioning is not even a question mark that he can do it. I
2 months ago, 2 months ago, you and me were talking about how much we doubt Adamchuk was going to win.
The Jaguar was going to get run over him, man.
Jaguar was just going to lay it on him. Thought the power would have too much, and then Adam came out, showed probably his best performance to date at the time. His best performance against Jaguar. We were thoroughly impressed. We're like, okay, you know what? Hats off. You got a fan out of me. Then he does this. 100%. I would buy a ticket.
That post-fight interview with Bazooka Joe was great. It was amazing. Like, he's like, so, what were you doing before the fight? And he's like, well, I get called. I eat, I make weight, and then I fight. It's like it's incredible.
There's nothing going on in Ukraine, so obviously he probably put down the vodka, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Pass me book. I learn English, and then
he goes, "How much you pay?" Okay, I
20 ruples and potato.
Sure.
No.
All right, let's get to the main event. Nicky Holtzkin once again putting his title on the line. This time against Yonan Kongolo. Kongolo did a lot better than I thought he did. I'm gonna be honest.
I kind of thought he won the fight.
Well, I think Nicky Holtzkin won. No,
that's wrong. He won the fight.
Kongolo did a lot better than I thought he would. I mean, he came into this fight as a 4-1 underdog. So
yeah,
I thought he was going to get ran over. I thought he might get knocked out in the 3rd or 4th round, but he stayed the course. He finished all 5. I thought won at the very least 2 rounds. Surprised to hear 2 judges score the fight 4-1 rounds in favor of Holtzkin.
Yeah,
but the big thing that could have changed this fight upside down was in the third round, which for sure was the round Congolo won. If anything else, was that spinning back kick he landed right to the liver of Nicky Holtzkin, which floored Nicky Holtzkin. In fact, he kind of almost got pushed down. It wasn't just so much that he dropped; he actually like jumped back. And because of that kind of that awkward jumping motion, for whatever reason, the referee decided that it wasn't a knockdown, and that, to me, changed the course of the fight. Because even if you would have gave Holtzkin the first 2 rounds and Congolo gets that knockdown, that's a 10-8 round. It's all tied at 28-28 heading into the 4th and 5th. That's a much different feeling than if just Congolo wins at 10-9. It's a big difference in the fight, and I really think that changed the momentum. And I don't think Congolo got discouraged, but that had to affect him a little bit when he hits him with such a good technique that dropped him, and he wasn't rewarded what should have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I had Congolo 2-3-4. I can see how Holtzkin won.
Holtzkin definitely won the 5th round.
Yeah, Holtzkin definitely was the 5th round. He put it on when he needed to, and he won the 1st round, in my opinion. And I thought it was 2-3-4 Congolo. Granted, at the same time, I was also watching the Dotson Manny Gambarian fight, which we'll talk later. I was kind of watching 2 events at once, so I can kind of see how, my opinion on the scoring was skewed. But I thought the kick definitely was the changing point for that fight.
It really was.
And I really felt he still brought it out in the 4th round. And I feel like the round before the kick, Congolo put enough on to at least get the 10-9. However, you got to beat the champ. I mean, that's what it is. And especially, it's like their biggest champ, and he's really talented.
The good thing, though, it wasn't as bad as that Groenhart fight in the last one, the decision. To me, you can, like you said, you can make a case for Congolo, but I think Holtzkin won that fight, and it wasn't controversial. Holtzkin afterwards, I thought, was very classy. Said he would give Congolo a rematch.
Yeah, totally cool about it.
Wanted to do it again.
I'm not like screaming robbery or nothing like that. So
I wanted to get Billy's thoughts though, because afterwards, speaking of Bazooka Joe again, he said Bazooka Joe's like, "Who do you want to face again?" And he goes, "You." Looks right at Joe, calls him out. Are you a fan, Billy, of seeing Bazooka Joe, Nicky Holtzkin 2?
100%. And this is the thing that Colin did actually text me about immediately. I love it. I love the interview. The only thing is, it's hard. I love it. I want to see it, but I do want to see Congolo get his rematch down the line. But I think that's the fight to make, because what else do you give Holtzkin right now?
Yeah, well, he's going to have to wait for that welterweight tournament to come up there.
Even that, are you that excited for whoever comes out of it? I just
probably
don't
not,
know.
but I like the Bazooka Joe one. I really do.
Yeah, that's got to be the fight to make. I love that
real
stuff.
quickly, some notes and news on Glory. Glory 30 got a huge addition. It will main event the Super Fight series. Joe Schilling will take on other top 5 ranked middleweight in Jason Wilness, a rematch from their main event fight at Glory 24, which ended due to a broken toe injury to Jason Wilness. Wilness actually had Schilling hurt in that fight, so I think this is a good rematch. Winner most likely faces the winner of the main event in Simon Marcus against Dustin Jacoby for the middleweight title. Of course, we're also going to see the debut of Tiffany Van Zandt, and also we're going to see that contender tournament for the welterweight division, which as of right now, we're going to see Casey Green against Zach Abraham. 2 other fighters will be named. The winner of that tournament, I would imagine, gets the spot in Glory 31's welterweight tournament. So far already has 2 fighters named, and Glory 30 will feature a light heavyweight tournament that has yet to be finalized. As of right now, actually the other contender fight has been necked. Ambang versus Morales will be the other in the welterweight tournament, but the light heavyweight hasn't been announced yet. Quickly, your thoughts on the Schilling Wilness fight, Colin and Billy?
I mean, I think it's interesting timing. I'm really trying to figure out what Schilling's doing with Bellator, going back and forth. He's supposed to be on their flagship debut, and then he's not on the debut, which I thought was interesting because they brought him out at the press conference. I don't know if that's bad blood or whatnot and everything, but he kind of disappeared. And originally, Franklin said if Schilling stays with Glory, he'll be getting the title shot. Now he's not, but he's fighting Wilness. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's still, a decent fight, and it's like it still keeps him in contention. Jacoby's got the title shot. I would love if Schilling gets to win and Jacoby somehow pulls off the win because Simon Marcus is a monster. I would love to see that fight. That's a fight I think a lot of us been caught for. It's Dustin and Joe.
Really, Joe against either one's a great fight.
I mean,
Just
honestly,
Joe's style.
I just
breeds
like fighting.
excitement.
I like
Joe's
watching
not
Joe.
going to have a bad fight.
No.
I like watching Joe fight anyone. I would love to see him put a beating on Artem
It's-
11, but
It's weird because we thought there would have been the title shot, but I think they actually did what was right here. I think Jacoby gets a shot. After
I mean, he won the tournament.
Yeah, he deserves that.
Right.
And then for Schilling, this is the only other matchup that makes sense and actually keeps it relevant for
Yeah,
a
I agree.
shot.
And like I said, because Wilness got hurt, Wilness did hurt him. I think it's a good rematch. I think Wilness deserves that because he took that fight against Joe Schilling on short notice in the altitude of Colorado.
Yeah,
Remember, because that was supposed to be Artem Levin. So I like that matchup, and Joe Schilling.
it keeps the division moving,
Yeah,
which
it really
is
does.
good. But yeah,
it's important.
it
man.
puts Schilling out for exposure and everything. I
I
mean,
think
we'll
they
see
did
where
it
it goes next.
100% right here.
And then Glory 31 was just announced. It will feature welterweight tournament. Mirthel Groenhout already has a spot booked. He will be taking on no one yet. They have TBA. But like we said, the contender is probably going to be there to determine the next contender for Nikki Holtzkin. Main event, though, will be for their lightweight title as Van Hoosmalen rematches Sitsong Piyong for the lightweight title. Also, we have, which will headline the super fight series. If those fights weren't good enough, Vahitov will put his light heavyweight title on the line against Tunisia's own Bouzidi. That will be the headline fight for the super fight series. And also making his return, trying to make a comeback after his loss to Adam Chuk. The Jaguar will make his return against Nihat Salami, who is 1-0 in Glory, but overall 60-1.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
So that's a pretty good fight there. I probably said his
name.
I probably said it wrong.
It's Salami. It's
It looks like
Slamani, I think.
Slamani. I
No,
don't
it's
know.
not
I
bad.
could
It's
go
not
either
bad.
way.
It's not
I
His
could
name
go
is
either
not
way there.
Salami, so
Either way, the Jaguar might eat that salami. So,
oh my.
all right. What do you think? 2 title fights here for Glory 31.
The way they got to do it. This is what I think the story of Bellator Glory is. It's just keep promoting everything you got. Doesn't matter who you. There's no reason to save your title fights for main cards and main events where you're not a pay-per-view. There isn't a point. Put your title fights, put your biggest stars where they'll do the most. Put them on the Super Fight Series where people can find it on Fight Pass. Put it on ESPN where people can hop online and watch it. Just put your chance when they're ready to go. Franklin and Cornelius, they're really big on just letting their fighters fight when they're ready. They got to make a living. They got to do
I
things.
like Vahitov. He had a great performance winning the title.
When a guy's
Perfect
ready
there.
to fight, find a spot for him.
The only thing I don't like is that they had to have Sitsong go through a tournament. He should have just gotten the rematch. I think that's the only kind of shame of the deal. Because to me, if I was Sitsong, I might have sat out. I just said, like, look, I should be getting a rematch. I beat Robin Van Hoosmalen. I
Right.
should be the lightweight champion of the world. But he was like, all right, fine. I'll do it. I'll win it. I'll prove you wrong.
I mean,
I'll
he
come
locked
back
it up and he got it.
and
so.
beat Van Hoosmalen. And I think he's going to be in this time. I know we're going to break it down when it happens in June, but I think Sitsong's going to do it and become the first champion from
Man,
Thailand.
that makes me way more of a fan though, because how easy could he have done that? Been like,
Right.
"No, I'll take the easier out," and he's like,
Right.
"No, I think I'm the best. I'll
And,
go through all
and
these
how
guys
about that?
anyway."
So on top of that, I mean, we're not behind closed doors. I mean, but other than the showing with Artem Levin at the one event, most of the fighters in Glory have been pretty gracious with how things are being run.
Yeah.
And just like they're getting frequent fights. There's crazy turnarounds. I mean, we're talking a guy who just loses the other day. He's already got his next fight announced. I mean, things like that. Like, there's a lot of consistency. I feel like kickboxing camps don't have to be as long as MMA camps. So you can really
that's
turn, especially with injury and whatnot, you could turn around pretty quick from a fight and get going in 2 or 3 months pretty fast. So, especially with the tournament format, these guys are really well seasoned and conditioned. And just letting, a title holder headline your super fight series gives the super fight series some nice. I mean, even the other like month, they had 2 title fights in the super fight series.
Yeah, that was the Adam Chuk fight. And then, again, Vahitov.
So it's like, keep it up. It's the same as if UFC with having guys like Uriah Faber headline your Fox card and your prelims and stuff like that. I mean, it does nothing but give you guys exposure. It gives them a paycheck. It gives them a fight. And that's really what you just want to do. You want to build your brand, keep it consistent. I don't want to sit around and wait a couple months to see your champ fight if he's ready to go now. And so having 2 or 3 champ fights a card, it does wonders for the sport. It's definitely a unique thing. It changes up that monotony of a build-up to a title fight card where every fight in the card isn't just scaled from like lowest ranking to highest. It's just mixed and matched. Just to keep the audience in the crowd just entertained throughout. So Glory's got a good format. So far, it's working for them, and I feel like it's just only going to get more solid. So,
Anything else, Bill?
I 100% agree. I mean,
yeah, I just got to spoke.
No,
Yeah,
okay, no. I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to leave them out.
no, man, everything they've done, from the matchups, the excitement, the tournaments, how frequently they can have cards but never have a card that you're like, oh, why are they putting this out there? It's just
Nothing's fell through either.
none.
Nothing has been like,
Not
oh
really.
man, like what? Like every once in a while, a fight might get scrapped, but
I think that
not
last
often.
thing we mentioned when Joe Schilling was supposed to fight Artem Levin in the rubber match at Glory 24, that's about it. As far as like a big fight not
really
happening.
has fallen through. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's consistent.
All right. Real quickly, I want to go over this kind of a dual headline. UFC announced that it looks to be UFC 205 in November will be their return to the state of New York. It's been since I think it was UFC 5 or 6. It was in
5.
Buffalo.
Yeah, it's 5.
In the early 90s. It's the only fight they ever had in the state of New York. So we were the return after many, many, many years. Rumored on the card will be Ronda Rousey's return to the organization, which will be about a year since her loss to Holly Holm. Who she will fight, I don't know. Miesha Tate may or may not be the champion in November. Holly Holm may or may not have taken a fight before then. But either way, Rousey will be there. Most likely the co-main event, depending on what they name. But it's probably going to be a huge event. It's kind of hard to speculate with so many big-time fights happening, around International Fight Weekend there in Las Vegas and 200 and everything. But I'm excited that they got the Garden booked, first of all. I would have liked to them hold it off and make it the New Year's Eve card, but having it in November's fine as well. And hopefully this event goes well and goes smoothly, and we start seeing New York get more and more events. And hopefully, they said Buffalo. Buffalo's not that far from us. We can make that drive pretty easily. So, what I'm saying is I hope this event goes well so more events can come to New York, because I think it is a big deal for the UFC to have fights in that market. It really, New Yorkers are weird. New Yorkers are weird like that. If stuff doesn't happen near them, they don't care about it.
Right.
They're really weird. So if you can start doing stuff there, that can only be good for the UFC and really good for the sport of mixed martial arts, because it's not just the UFC gets to have events there. Everybody gets to have events there. Yeah. So it's only good for the sport.
Well, it's the biggest stage in the world, and
it's the world's most famous arena.
Yeah, and it's an international venue. I mean, you get a lot of folks. You can just easily just fly right in New York and get to Madison Square. I'm going to try and be there attending and representing. I got family who lives out there. I got a place to stay. I just got to get the cash. But it also falls on UFC's 23rd anniversary, is November 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big deal card. I think they'll probably stack it pretty well. There's going to be a lot of cool promotion. I think they might even see some performances. It might be really weird. We might see the Harlem Globetrotters make an appearance for like a tag team match. I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to show up. I'm going to eat some hot dogs. Hopefully Ronda Rousey's there, because she's probably the most famous female fighter in the world. And it's just to put her on a venue like that.
She's the most famous UFC fighter in the world.
Very arguably so. There's not many you could even put above them, or above her. So
if Ronda comes back and fights anybody but Holm, though, do you care?
It's either going to be Holm or Miesha. It's not going to be anybody besides those two.
If she fights Miesha, even, I feel like it does so much less for her.
Well,
yeah, I think if she came back to avenge the loss on the card,
it's a big deal. Her returning.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not holding a lot of faith in how she'll return. Just the fact that she'll be on the card. I mean, I think it'll be a good card, but it's just everyone's gonna have their eyes on this card now. It's a really big deal. So,
all right, let's get to this weekend's fight, the UFC on Fox 19 in Tampa, Florida. Real quickly, looking at the undercard, saw a lot of good performances. Michael Graves defeated Randy Brown, the hot prospect that was on the Looking for the Fight Dana White show. Also, Ponzinibbio scored a very impressive first-round knockout over former Ultimate Fighter winner Court McGee. We also saw Raquel Pennington and Betch Correia have an absolute war, which saw Pennington win by split decision. And speaking of Ultimate Fighter winners, we saw another former Ultimate Fighter winner.
Don't pass over.
Yeah, that's true. He was a winner.
Don't pass over
John Dodson. John Dodson knocked out
stunning knockout.
former Ultimate Fighter runner-up,
Yeah.
Manville to Anvil Gamburi, knocking him out in 47 seconds, and then Michael Chiesa submitting Beneil Dariush in the second round. Some very nice performances there, and pretty solid undercard that was shown on Fight Pass, and actually regular Fox right before the main card started at 8 Eastern.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's weird to look at this card and see how many fighters came from Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I'm like 1, 2,
Very
3,
Ultimate Fighter
4,
heavy.
5, 6. Well, I believe at least like 7 fighters came from like a season of the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
and actually
you have
placed.
Rashad, Rose, Tisha, Chiesa, Pennington,
Court McGee,
Michael Graves,
John
Dodson, and Manny.
Yeah,
all were on the Ultimate Fighter at some point.
which is pretty crazy. So
Three of them winning actually 4 of them winning the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
For how good this undercard was, though, I'm really glad it showed up on Fox.
yeah,
Yeah, the best fights were on Fox. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was upsetting to see Randy Brown take a loss because there's a lot of hype on him, and I like him. But Michael Graves is extremely talented. And
I was impressed by Michael Graves.
I was impressed by it, so that'll be a good fight. My dude, Court McGee, took a loss, but
Thankfully, you guys
hey,
didn't shut up
he
on
needs
this.
to restring the base and just get back to touring. Bring out, another
Stop it,
toxicity.
Bears.
out.
What'd you think of the Pennington fight? Was that a lot? There was some controversy about that. Did you agree with Pennington getting the nod there?
I mean, it was a slow fight. I agree with Pennington getting the nod just because I feel like she looked a little bit better than Carrera, but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I'm of different opinions on how a lot of decisions went from other general opinions. Betch didn't look horrible.
They both
But
fought good enough to win.
yeah, that's the
for
thing.
sure.
And it's just like, I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest. Second round, I did pass out for like 2 minutes. I mean, it's the kind of,
I'll tell you the thing that impressed me most in this card, not to switch on you guys, was that Chiesa somehow submitted
Dude.
Beneil.
the way he
That
did
is
it, I'm
awfully
telling
impressive,
you. I'm
considering
telling
how
you.
bad his round 1 was.
I'm buying the excuse that he had to crap. All right. He said he had to go number 4. He said number 4. That bad.
I don't know.
It
I've
doesn't
been
go
in-
away in between rounds, man.
I've been having a decision.
I
I
don't
walk home
know.
from school and I know what it feels like to have to use the bathroom that bad.
Dariush is the solid striker. I don't
Dariush
know.
is solid on the ground. And Chiesa came out and took it in the first minute. He said, you know what? I sat down between rounds.
Yeah, you realize that
The
he's not
feeling
that good
went
at
away.
striking and went to the ground.
Dog. He went up there and he struck an arrow into my heart and won me back.
Wow.
After that Joe
It
Lozon
was a
throwing
good
a
fight.
fit. He's a good
That
fighter.
was a good win.
I don't think any of us thought him to be up towards contention, but he's slowly working his way actually to a top 5 spot.
No, he
which
is.
is really
I
weird.
think that's 3 in a row for him.
What's Beneil
Yeah.
ranked right now?
Beneil was
7.
ranked
7.
8 coming into the fight.
So, well, him and Johnson are ranked at 7 on the UFC
Yeah, so
website. So, I
that's-
think that's an error. So he's probably
Yeah,
like
so that's
8.
3 in a row for Chiesa, and he's won 5 out of his last 6. His only loss coming, like you said, to Lozon, which ended up being a doctor's stoppage due to a cut. But other than that, he's beaten Francisco Trinaldo, who I think has won 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
He beat Colton Smith. Of course, he already has a win over top 10 ranked Ally Aquinta when he became the Ultimate Fighter. He beat Mitch Clark. He submitted Jim Miller, and now Beneil Dariush in back-to-back
That
fights
rear naked is
where he got a
scary.
post-fight bonus in both performances.
Yeah. So, I mean, good for Chiesa. I like it. I'm hoping to see the Johnson fight. I know he wants Ferg, but I feel like Johnson would be another good fight for him.
Yeah, Johnson's probably the only one above him not booked. I think would be the best fight.
Yeah. So,
Good
but he
fight.
said he wants to fight towards the end of summer. The problem with that is just like
Can wait for Don Cerrone, maybe.
maybe the thing is the landscape's going to be
Cerrone's
really
booked in
different by the
June,
end
right?
of summer. So
Against Patrick
He's booked
Cote.
in June.
Yeah.
So he's thinking. I mean, Chiesa's thinking like an August return. Things are going to be so different by then. We might even see Nate Diaz come back to the division.
Because
and
by
we
that
might-
time, Anthony Pettis, of course, is fighting this weekend.
I mean,
against
depending
Edson
on how
Barboza.
That's probably
that's,
good.
that's
depending how the top
big
5
player
shakes
there.
up, we could see Nate Diaz come back and end up seeing
and
a
that's
Nate
true.
Diaz Chiesa
Nate
fight.
Diaz as
Because Diaz is scheduled for July. A good turnaround would be a fall fight
I'm
for
going
him.
to
Back
tell
to
you right now, though, if Diaz beats Connor again, if he loses to Connor, I think you see the Chiesa fight.
yeah.
If he beats Connor,
probably gets
you-
the title shot.
yeah, he's only getting the
If
biggest
he
fight
fights
he can get.
Robbie Lawler, I'm going to lose my mind.
All right, getting to the main card, first fight of the evening, featherweight division for the fight that got replaced, Lyoto Machida against Dan Henderson. Got removed. Machida took a substance that I guess last year wasn't banned, but this year now banned.
Well,
He didn't know of the change, so he admitted to taking the substance, which is now banned, and the fight got canceled 2 days before. I guess you could say good on Lyoto for saying that he took something that he wasn't supposed to. whether or not he actually knew it was banned or whatever.
From what I heard,
I'm willing to give. There are certain people I don't believe, but I'm willing to give Machida the benefit of the doubt because he's never been a guy that's been jacked or like a
Right.
The guy
physical
took a
specimen
GNC supplement.
and stuff. Yeah, and the fact it wasn't banned just
They
a
have
year
no
ago.
real reason
Well,
why
I think
this
is
substance
kind
is
of a big
banned.
Here's the
deal.
thing. I heard that it was on a ban list in 2006. That's when it got added, but it wasn't necessarily like as strictly as enforced. And then last year's when USADA really started cracking down on things, and then it was just he didn't even test for it. He just
admitted
using
to it, which
they
by
showed up to his
definition,
house and he
USADA
asked.
says
They just
he
said,
took
"Hey,
it."
what are you?"
Same thing with
what
Miracle
supplements
Pro
when you're on, and he said, "Oh, hey, I'm just taking these things," and it was just ignorance to it. He didn't know, kind of thing. But from what I understood, I think if you go on the website, I think it was banned since 2006.
I think
It's just the thing is, it's not a common thing. It's a whatever. It's the over-the-counter, supplement. It's you can get it at GNC. You can get it at Walmart at 2 a.m.
the argument is, should half the stuff even be banned? That's what
Probably
I was
not.
watching
Half
some
the stuff
stuff.
probably should.
up until a couple of years ago. I forget who was talking about this. Caffeine was banned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certain things still are banned. Ibuprofen and Tylenol are banned. You're not allowed to take those before fight. Female fighter, she's had a fight and she wanted to take a pain medicine before the fight, and they said you can't because it is a banned substance. Just certain things, weird things that are banned for whatever weird reason. I don't know enough about the enforcement policies as to why
I
things
just
like that
hate
get
that
banned.
people that aren't really fully educated on it are so quickly to be like, "Oh, there goes Machida, you piece of crap steroid user."
Yeah,
know?
you saw a lot of that.
People
There was
throw
a lot
so
of that.
much
I
of
think
it.
it's just because
Mhm.
there's been just so much.
Well, Dan
ire,
Henderson
people getting dragged
didn't
through
have to
Jared
wait
Silva
long
and-
to get a fight as they booked him against Hector Lombard. Speaking of performance
crazy
enhancing drugs,
change.
Wow.
What a
he'd
crazy
be taking on
change.
Hector Lombard at UFC 199.
You went from a GNC user to a real user.
Dude, this guy's got designer drugs written all
So-
over him. And honestly, that went from a fight I could see Dan Henderson winning to a fight that I don't know, because
It's gonna be a fun fight.
he's going back up to arguably where his natural weight class was, which was middleweight, and
I will say, if Henderson knocks out Lombard, it might be one of my favorite MMA moments of all time.
It's gonna be a good fight.
My last
there's no way.
my
it's boring.
last favorite MMA moment was Neil Magny beating Lombard. So I mean, let's be real. So if Hendo can pull it off, I'll be happy.
Well, the Cub Swanson Hakan Diaz fight, not overly exciting. I thought Cub Swanson did a good
kicked
job of being unorthodox. I think he really threw Diaz off. Not only that, Diaz, if he wasn't figuring him out, he wasn't really doing much to try to figure him out. I thought he didn't have enough output. I thought Swanson was really tagging him. It just seemed like Diaz, like he didn't know what to do. And instead of throwing and trying to make something happen, he was sitting back and hoping the Cub made a mistake, and that didn't really happen. It didn't,
Yeah,
and Cub
I mean-
really took advantage of it in this fight and actually outstruck the Brazilian almost 2-1, 95 to 58 in the final tally. Knocked him down several times, had some good ground and pound, and really nice bounce back win for Cub after losing 2 straight to Holloway and Frankie Edgar.
Oh, I mean, Cub really needed this, man. He looked good. I know some people counted him out and they said he was done, but he definitely showed he's still there and he's got some more fights. So edged him out. He had the good striking. For Hakrin, I mean, what much more? You go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I
here.
mean, Akron looked good, but
Did we all go undefeated in picks in this card except Colin?
okay, look now.
No, you and Colin took Horcher
Oh, yeah.
for the upset.
I forgot about that fun little thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would like to see Hakrin against someone probably not as strike-wise. I mean, give him what's his face.
You took Diaz though, right?
Yeah, Colin
I took
did.
Diaz. No,
Okay.
well, I thought Cub Swanson was washed up, and Frankie Edgar.
So you went 2-2, Billy and I,
Went-
no, I went
You went
4-0.
undefeated.
Yeah, you went
good for me.
undefeated.
You went
Didn't mess
3-1
around with that
because of the
Khabib
Horcher.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Khabib won.
We all know
Let's
that
get
happened.
yeah.
Horcher, to his credit, I thought held up pretty good. I'm gonna be honest. I thought he was gonna get beaten like 30 seconds, but he lasted to 3:38 in the second round on a fight he took on 12 days' notice, never having fought in the UFC
His head movement
before.
looked really good. His
Um,
striking looked good. Well, no, legit. Before he got taken to the ground gloriously, which I am now a Khabib fan, he finally won me over.
I thought he did better than expected.
Khabib won me over, but you know why? I seen a post he made tagging like Horsher saying, "Hey, you were pivotal in taking this fight to help me come back my career. If you ever need anything, I'm there.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
He's a
Khabib
good
won me
dude.
over. It's like after because like Khabib only really lost my interest just because he was injured for so long and he just talked so much
for
crap
2 years.
and kept saying, "Oh, I'm the real champ."
I'm not gonna lie,
But it was kind of annoying, whatever, and everything. I don't care. Just heal up.
His hat.
But he came in, he healed up. He didn't care who he fought. He got the win, and then
he cared who he fought.
And well, he
There's
was
a
humble
reason
about it.
Bellator Chiesa didn't fight him.
Yeah, I mean,
but let's move on.
But he was humble about it. I mean, he took the win without like saying like, yeah, what do you expect? Yada, yada. He didn't talk a lot of crap or nothing. He came out and he did his job.
I think my theme with Khabib, it wasn't even him as much as it was the fans that he hadn't fought for 2 years or whatever, and there's
I think the fans
this
drove me
guy's
nuts.
the greatest thing ever. He deserves a title
He
shot.
may
It
be
just
honestly
drove
he
me
may
crazy.
be. Just my big stance on it right now is just other than the Rafael dos Anjos fight, which was 2 years ago, he's kind of only beaten though low to mediocre talent. He's being Abel Trujillo, who's going on and off. He beat Daryl Horsher. He beat what's his name, Varner, I believe, or whoever. The thing is,
was it Varner?
no, it wasn't Varner. It was someone else.
Here, I'll
Thing is,
look it up real quick.
Khabib, because I don't count his fights outside of the UFC because they're all just Russian names. It's just a Russian regional circuit.
He beat
Pat
Kamal
Hughes.
Shalarus in his debut.
He
Then
arguably could have
beat
lost to Gleason
Gleason
Tebow
Tebow,
fight.
yep. And then he beat Thiago Tavares, who's now fighting at 145.
Right.
As you
Abel
mentioned,
Trujillo-
Abel Trujillo, Pat
Healy
Healy,
would look like crap in the UFC.
RDA, and now
His only
Horcher.
fight that was like that could even be like a good fight was that Dos Anjos fight, and that was years ago before Dos Anjos had something go up his butt.
And I
he
think it was
became this
also
monster.
that of those like last three, the Trujillo, Healy, and RDA were all decision.
Yeah, they're like kind of like and like I know a lot of people say, oh, but he's so undefeated. Look at his record, dude. He fought a bunch of Russians in the Russian regionals. Like honestly, I'm not saying that doesn't count as wins. But I mean, honestly, when you fight cans in one area, you're going to fight cans in one area for the longest time.
You know what? The UFC wouldn't do this, but I would actually like it if Chiesa got that fight now.
Yeah,
I'd be
that's
all
fine.
over the fight. That's a
But
good
the
fight.
UFC is going to give him a title shot or a contender shot.
Well, the thing is, he's going to have to wait to get the title shot because they booked RDA against Eddie Alvarez now for that Fight Pass
thing
card
was,
on Thursday
wasn't
before
gonna get-
200. So to me, Khabib should have to take another fight because he's
he
going to have
can't.
to sit and weigh again. We all know what happens when he sits and waits. He gets hurt.
Right.
So
Well, here's the
I
thing,
would try to
so-
get him a fight as soon as possible.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, Ramadan starts June, I believe, June 3rd, something like that. It
He's
lasts a whole
Muslim?
month. Yeah, no, he's Muslim. That's why he's not fighting at RDA.
oh, I never
it's
heard of a
because- yeah.
Muslim Russian.
Yeah, no, he's Muslim. So
I'm being honest. I
No,
had
no,
no
yeah.
idea.
so
Learn
he's
something every day.
he's from Dagestan, and apparently the reason he's not fighting RDA in the summer, that's why he had this fight now. They didn't reschedule the 23rd fight, is because he has Ramadan coming up. He doesn't want to train during Ramadan. He wants to spend it with his family, have a good solid camp. He actually doesn't want to like sit there and have to cheat on his religion. He's super religious, and whatever. I can respect him just being true to his faith and not being two-faced about it. So he can't actually fight in the summer. So Chiesa does want to fight towards the end of summer. That's probably when Khabib will be able to good camp. Is at the end of mid-July when Ramadan's over, he can start training again.
They're going to give him
We'll
the
see.
title shot.
So,
and use that weight as the
He can't
excuse.
fight anytime soon, which sucks because we're tired of seeing Khabib fight once every 3 years. But at this rate, he's like Haley's Comet, and it's just what we're going to get.
All right, let's get to the co-main event of the evening. Rose Namajunas against Tisha Torres. When you look at the final numbers, still paints a picture of a close fight, but maybe more in the losers realm than maybe the eventual winner, as Torres did outstrike Rose 93-48. Rose did mix in 2 takedowns out of 4 attempts, 0 for 1 officially for Torres. First round was close. Both landed some pretty good shots. Torres edged in striking 29-16. I would have gave the first round to Tisha. Round 2, Rose landed a couple more heavy shots. I would have gave her that round. A slight edge in strikes for Tisha, 29-23. And then round 3, I definitely thought was Tisha. I think her coaches there told her that you might need this round to win the fight, and I really thought Tisha kind of upped it up a notch. Maybe the best Tisha Torres we've ever seen in the UFC was in that round 3 as she outstruck Rose 35-9. Despite the 1 takedown by Rose, she didn't do much with it. Tisha was able to pop back up well, and I thought Tisha won that 3rd round. It was really the difference was how you scored that first, but 2 judges scored it in favor of Rose, and she got the split decision, actually unanimous decision victory, scoring 29-28 on all 3 cards. And do you think those couple big power shots that Rose landed, do you think that kind of was what the difference
Oh,
was in
definitely.
this fight.
I mean, I had her winning this fight. Rose winning this fight. And it's no offense to Tisha, but we say this a lot about Tisha. I think we said this actually last week covering the fight. Is Tisha is one of those fighters who she knows how to survive a fight and just grind out a decision. Rose is a killer and likes to go for the finish. And when you get those two things going together, a lot of times, scoring wise, the person who has that killer instinct tends to pull the round off more because they tend to land the more significant strikes. And Tisha is just more in survival mode. This case, not so much, because this, like you said, probably the best Tisha we've seen in the UFC. But at the same time, if that's what the best Tisha has to offer in a close decision loss to Rose Namajunas, it's like, is that really someone you just want to like cry robbery about for if this is what we got?
I scored it for Rose too. I thought she won it based on the takedowns. I thought those were what stole the rounds.
Exactly.
But I think Tisha landed the bigger shots in this fight. I mean, right in the
Tisha
first
did
round,
land some nice shots.
she actually dropped Rose. Rose had that
Yeah, I
clinch,
remember that.
and the left landed, and she went down. I think Tisha landed, and that kind of thought maybe you're seeing a little different Tisha. She looked explosive and good, but I think Rose edged it out. She landed a little more solid strikes later on in the fight, and the takedowns at the right time towards the end of the round, and she just barely did enough to secure it. But I don't want to say I'm disappointed in Rose, but I didn't see that killer in Rose that I wanted.
It wasn't the same Rose that fought Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah,
That's for sure. But like we said, we probably saw the best Tisha Torres we've seen so far in the UFC. And the fact that these two girls are so young, we're probably going to see a rubber match. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we're going to see that later down the road. The interesting thing, though, coming out of this fight is all of us were in agreement that the winner of this fight will probably face the winner of Joanna and Gadella for the strawweight title. However, after the fight, Dana White says that Rose may need another fight or two before she fights for the strawweight title again.
I'm just going to completely ignore that.
I'm going to assume
I'm not really sure.
A rematch with Tisha and then the loser.
I'm not really
of
sure
the,
what division he's
Joanna.
looking at, but if Rose doesn't get the next title shot, you're really scrounging for people, and especially if Joanna beats Gadella again, you have the number 2, the unanimous 2 ranked girl, beaten twice by the champion. You want to try to put your best foot forward. You don't want someone kind of getting another gift title shot. No offense to Jessica Penne, but she kind of got a gift title shot. Or Valerie Raturno, you can make a case, kind of got a gift. You can't give her girls that are, well, she's got a win in a row, or she's, well, near the top 10. You can't. You got to give people that are the best a shot. And I think Rose, despite being this a close fight, she's the top-ranked girl. She's won 3 fights in a row. And I really think she's deserving. Now, maybe she ends up fighting a Carla Esparza, maybe a Jessica Aguilar, or maybe a Michelle Watterson. Maybe she does take another fight, but in my mind, she shouldn't have to.
Yeah, this is just Dana being Dana, honestly.
It's weird. I feel like there's 2 different worlds in this division. Like, they're cutting all those Ultimate Fighter people out of the equation or some reason. Like, it's
such a weird thing, and I know a lot of the issue comes to a lot of these fighters, these women have all traded losses and wins back and forth with each other, and it creates an issue. That's what happens when you got a really shallow division. The top 15 is basically all that's in that division. Anyone outside of that top 15 does not mean a thing.
Exactly.
And it's just like, there's women in that top 15. There's a top 13 fighter. She's ranked 13, has 1 fight in UFC. It's a loss. She's ranked over 2 chicks who have winning records in the UFC.
And you're referring to Jessica Aguilar.
Yeah, which, look, no offense, you're fighting professionally. I'm not. But you have 1 loss in the UFC, and you're ranked above people who have winning records. It doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense with what's going on with strawweight right now. It's such a mess. And then when you get to that top 5, you feel like, okay, well, now it's just clear cut. Here's number 1. Here's the champ. 2, 3, 4. They're all going back and forth trading spots and who might get the title shot. Instead, you're skipping over your top 5 for title shots.
Yeah, Rose was number 3 coming into this fight, according to the UFC. Tisha was 4. The only people ahead of those 2 ladies are Gadella, already booked for a title shot, and Carla Esparza, the former champion. Rose, the number 3, now beats the number 4. How does that?
And then
That's what I'm saying. How does that not equate It's a title shot.
And look, and now you have your
Any
title
other
fight.
division, it'd be a title shot.
How did Carla not even get ripped out of the rankings? They do it to everyone else. How long has
I
it
don't.
been?
It's been
Forever.
about a year.
It's since the Ultimate Fighter, basically. She defended like 3
March
months
is when
after.
she lost to
Yeah.
Joanna last March.
Yeah. So it's just like
It doesn't matter.
it really
Nate
doesn't.
Diaz was in the rankings for like 2 years, and Dominic Cruz was still ranked, and he hadn't fought in like 3 years.
Yeah,
I
it-
thought they
so
ripped
don't
Nate
care.
after like a year.
They don't care because at the end of the day, they were going to make the fight that they
If
feel is the
Gustafsson
best.
can get knocked out and get
So-
a title shot, anyone can get a
Yeah.
title shot.
It's just at the end of the day, there's nothing to even say. If Rose doesn't get a title shot, it's ridiculous on the UFC's half. It's just there's nothing more you can say.
All right, main event of the evening: Glover Teixeira against Rashad Evans. Watching this fight, Rashad was kind of in the danger zone. He was that black line that they have that kind of shows a couple feet before the cage. He was constantly circling that. And if you're going to fight Glover Teixeira, you can't really be in that area. He's the machine. We called him the machine. He's going to keep coming at you, and you can't be in a defensive posture. You have to try to move and cut angles. If you're just circling with your back feet up against the cage, he's going to hit you with something. And he did. He hit him with a big, powerful bomb. Rashad couldn't handle it, and Glover walks away with a first-round knockout after 1 minute and 48 seconds.
Look,
I mean, it was – I don't know what tape Rashad watched, but he was already from the start bad with his footwork. He needed to move more around, come at Glover, maybe challenge with a takedown, get him in the clinch, but that's not what we saw from Rashad Evans.
Rashad just needs to stop fighting. And
No, he
just-
should retire. He's
and
done.
just stick with analyzing.
He offered nothing in this fight. Like you said with Glover, he's going to walk you down. All Rashad did was say, hey, come walk me down. I'm going to do nothing to get your respect. I'm going to do nothing to
I can
switch it up.
counter you. I'm still, 30 years old. No, you're 37.
Yeah, you watched my fight with Bader.
About
It's-
once in 3 years.
I mean, Rashad. I mean, we all know Rashad has an ego thing and stuff. We know this from the Ultimate Fighter and the fights he's been in, and he has a good highlight reel. But
Is this highlight real? He has 2 highlights.
2 highlights. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like 2 highlights. That's a good
3
highlight
if you
reel.
count getting stanky legged by Lota Machida.
I was counting that in the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, well, he has the Sean Salmon knockout and
And
the
the Chuck
Liddell, which Chuck. Here's the thing. I think he's riding off that win so hard, and he's just trying to ride off his name. Really, in reality, though, Rashad Evans ain't shit. I'm
He
just
was the
gonna
first
say
to
it right
crack Chuck?
now. Yeah,
No, I thought Rampage did it first.
Yeah, Rampage
you're
knocked
right.
him out before.
Rampage,
I
Rashad,
don't even.
Rich Franklin, people with an R in front of their name,
Shogun.
Yeah,
Hua. So I don't know. All it says to me though, when I watch that, Glover won, whatever. It says to a testament of how good John Jones is that he walked Glover down in his fight and beat Glover at his own game and won a decision. And Glover's been
Yeah.
nothing short of a beast in the UFC and his entire professional career. It's just all knockout stoppages, basically. It just goes to show how good John Jones really is. I'm not trying to sit here and get all over that John
Well,
Jones thing, but
Yeah.
seriously, look at that. He beat both of these guys who are arguably like top contenders handedly, and one of them just got starched in like a minute.
Real quickly, because I want to move on to 197. After the fight, Glover calls out Rumble Johnson. I think because of this debacle with Cormier pulling out, most likely the next fight to make will be Cormier against the winner of Jones OSP. With that happening, I see Rumble Glover main event UFC on Fox Chicago, July 23rd, as a perfect event, and you have a solidified number 1 contender
I didn't think
for
I'd
the
be
light
so
heavyweight
excited for
division.
it to share a fight, but holy crap, that is such a gimme, good, solid fight where
This fight showed me how good Phil Davis was.
Yeah, you're going to get a knockout out of that fight.
No,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That,
it's the
It's-
best matchup for both of them.
'cause here's the
they
thing,
have the
those-
2 heaviest hands in the
they're
division,
not two
right?
fighters either who like sit there and like they'll play cautious because they're worried about getting KO'd. They don't care. They
They're
got
both
this.
meeting in the center.
Yeah, they're going to meet in the center and just bang it out. Promise. I will put money on it right now. It ends in the first round. It's just going to be a slugfest, I feel.
All right, let's get to UFC 197 real quickly. Very good undercard for UFC 197, starting with former Ultimate Fighter Efren Escudero. He's taking on our hometown guy, the hometown phenom, Kevin Lee, trying to get a bounce back victory. Also, Clint Hester will move up to take on
Buster.
Marcos de Lima, so that should be interesting. Him moving up from middleweight. Also, you got Walt Harris, the big ticket, the huge heavyweight there. He'll be taking on Cody East.
lot of hype
Those will
on
be
Cody
the fight
East.
pass there. Looking at the FS1 prelims, very excited. Sergio Pettis against Chris Kalidas in
Good
the
fight.
flyweight division. Kalidas he had a very good last fight in the flyweight division. Sergio Pettis looks way
Six-pack
better
is way too
at
high.
flyweight as opposed to bantamweight. I'm not ever sure why he even fought in bantamweight when he moved over from RFA, being the RFA flyweight champion. This is a big fight for Sergio. If he can get this win, you really start kind of talking as a guy that maybe could contend for the title in a year or two. Also at 170, Danny Roberts. Oh, they're both from England. That's weird. You have Leon Roberts. Well, anyways, Danny Roberts take on Dominic Steele. Should be interesting. Carlos
Stop
Garza.
action packed.
Dom, yeah.
Dom T.
Versus hot
That's funny
chocolate.
because didn't Zach Cummings knock him out in like 40 seconds in this last fight?
Hey,
Dog.
calm down.
All right. Juliana Lima takes on Carla Esparza. Carla's first fight in over a year
she
since
is.
losing the title to Joanna Jacek. So it'll be interesting to see her taking this fight on short notice against the 14th ranked Lima. And also James Vick, big fan of him, one of the bigger guys in the lightweight division as he takes on Gilacchio Franca. If you had to pick one fight, gentlemen, what one fight out of those 7 undercards would you say fans have to watch?
Honestly, I don't like James Vick, but he shows up, and like his past few fights, he's actually a talented fighter. I don't like. Yeah, fuck, I'm not even going to go into the history of why I don't like him. Point being, James Vick has shown up consistently in his last few fights, and they've been good fights. And he's got like this tall, weird reach thing going on where he throws like a good variety of strikes, so it's entertaining. And against Franca, I mean, I feel like that's a dude who will really kind of like go to push the pace against him. Honestly, that could be a really good fight that I don't think anyone's going to really expect. Just because to beat Vic, you got to get in close.
I was gonna say I don't want to pick it because it's the premier fight in it, I guess. But Sergio's always exciting, man. All his fights are just you can't put. Oh man, the guy's got so much potential. He's what 20 now. Not taking any away from Chris Clays, I'm sure he'll bring it, but this kid's too exciting to watch. During the Esparza fight, take a nap, same old thing.
Yeah, I might actually go to the store and buy some cookies.
I'm going to say the Kevin Lee fight. 'cause
Oh,
I
those
think,
fights are counting too? Okay,
What?
yeah.
No, yeah, I said all the undercards. No,
okay,
you're
the
fine.
undercard.
No,
yeah.
I say Kevin Lee because he has a lot to prove after his loss to Santos. He was supposed to win that fight. That would have been his 5th win in a row. You know, he would have been start looking at top 15 competition, and you know he kind of showed up lame and got knocked out. Escudero, you know, not as good as he once was, but a solid veteran in the sport. You know, former Ultimate Fighter winner. And I think Kevin Lee is looking to make a statement here at UFC 197.
I have this anger on my shoulder against any Detroit fighter right now because I just want them to succeed to bring a fight here. And they all just fail me. Right when I thought he was getting that traction, I thought he was like one fight away from getting big fights. And he just took that loss. It's so tough.
But hey, Escudero's not a bad fight. A win there could really bounce him up. So.
Let's get to the main card of UFC 197, kicking off in the featherweight division as we have 2 of the division's brightest prospects and Yair Rodriguez taking on Andre Touchy Fili. Both have looked really well so far in the UFC. Both are undefeated so far in the organization. 6-1 overall for Yair, 15-3 for Fili. Looking at Fili so far, he has been 3-2. His last fight was a win over Gabriel Benitez, knocking him out in the first round at the Gastelum Magny fight, UFC Fight Night 78. Looking at Rodriguez, his last fight, I believe, was in Daniel Hooker at UFC 192 in October, beating him by unanimous decision. So far, 3-0 in the organization. I really think the difference in this fight, Fili does have some submission skills, has won 3, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, 3 of 15 by submission, but I think he does have some decent grappling skills, and that's an area that maybe Yair's not his strongest at. He definitely has showed some really great stand-up skills, and because you saw Daniel Hooker have some success on the ground a little bit in that 192 fight and the limited time it was on the ground. So I think if you're Andre, try to get this fight to the ground because I think the longer it stays standing up, it goes to the Mexicans' prowess here in this fight.
I definitely agree. We'll see how things go. I'll give more of a reason for my pick later. But, I mean, these are both really good upcoming dudes. This is going to be a firework matchup. But outside of that, you know, it really just comes down to just the ground game that touchy feely is really bringing to the match. So
Yeah, I really like Yair. You know how much I've been talking about
Yeah.
Yair on this show. I don't ever stop. But the thing is, if Philly wants to put on a good game plan and win this fight, I think he'll easily be able to do it. Yair's one of those guys. He's almost easy to get to the ground because of his style. He throws so many wild
that's what I'm
strikes.
about to say. Like, it's dangerous because now it's like if he's smart, which he very well may be,
It's why
he's not going to try and throw that crazy stuff anymore. But that's what
He will.
usually wins him fights. The
That's
problem
why I
is,
love
like,
him.
I love it too. It's super entertaining, but that puts him at such a risk because
That's why Dan Hooker got him on his back a lot. It happens. But that being said, I'll give a pick. We'll get into it. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough matchup for Yair.
Next fight of the evening, middleweight division, Rafael Natal against Robert Whittaker. Slowly but surely, believe it or not, Natal has been in the UFC since 2010 and has built up a 9-4-1 record, including his current 4-fight winning streak, coming off a third-round knockout victory over Kevin Casey at UFC on Fox 18. And of his 21 career victories, 9 decisions, taking on Australia's own and former Ultimate Fighter Smashes winner there, Robert Whittaker, who looked excellent in his last fight, defeating Uriah Hall. And since losing a bout to Stephen Thompson at welterweight in February 2014, he has won his last 4 fights, 3 of them at 185 pounds, beating the likes of Brad Tavares, Clint Hester, and Uriah Hall. Has looked really good since moving up a weight class. And he's taking on a guy that's a pretty big middleweight. Natal's not a small dude. He has some grappling background. I'm pretty sure he's a black belt. But he has 8 submission victories. He has submitted someone it's been a while since he submitted somebody. He beat Sean Spencer back in 2013. That was almost 3 years ago, but still has more submission experience than Whittaker. This is a good test for Robert Whittaker. So far, he's fought more stand-up based guys in his career, not just at 170, but also middleweight. This is the first guy that could really test to see how well Robert Whittaker has developed a game off his back or takedown defense. And if he can beat a solid veteran like this, 27 professional fights, 33 years old, like I said, 4-fight win streak, has been fighting in the UFC for 6 years. This is a really big deal for Robert Whittaker, and I think this is a very tough fight, and a fight that if he can get by it, he's ready for top competition in this division.
Yeah, see, if Rafael opens this fight with another nut kick, I'm going to be livid. I'm going to be livid, okay? I hate him because he did it on Uriah Hall, and it clearly changed the demeanor of the fight, and it was such an intentional foul, and it boils my blood.
Yeah, luckily Hall still got the win, though.
Against Natal? No.
No, not against Natal. I was thinking
the other one.
The other Brazilian guy he fought with the toe thing.
Yeah, so it's just like it was so deliberate. Anyway, the point being, left a bad taste in my mouth. But being said, I'm not impressed much otherwise by Natal. I mean, what he knocked out Kevin Casey. Dude had kidney failure and quit his fight on The Ultimate Fighter. That doesn't impress me. He got knocked out by Tim Kennedy. Knocked out by Andrew Craig. He let Andrew Craig kick him in the head. Okay,
Robert Whittaker by Ed Herman.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on. You're winning against guys who are washed up from a season of Ultimate Fighter. Tor Trong just got cut on a win streak because he's boring. Chris Camozzi, I'm sorry, dude. He split decision.
And Zhao Seferino, one of the guys he beat, just lost to John Fitch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Rafael Natal isn't making waves. To me, he's just a grumpy Renzo Gracie washout. And honestly, Robert Whittaker is on such a tear right now, and everyone just sleeps on the guy. And he fights decent talent, and he just shows up and just neutralizes game, and he just fights patiently, but he puts power out. I mean, the Whittaker fight, and I think a lot of people are just like not realizing Robert Whittaker's on a decent win streak, and it could really start pushing for things in the middleweight.
Robert Whittaker is one of the most underrated guys in the UFC.
Yeah.
A lot simpler. He's too slick, and he knocks Natal out.
Okay.
Yeah.
One quick thing, last point. I'm glad to see Whittaker not fight in Australia for once.
Yeah, that's important.
I believe this is
his way towards Michigan.
I think this is
his. Like him.
This is his first fight since 170. UFC 170, which
losses.
was in New Jersey, right? UFC 170.
Yes.
And that was a loss to Stephen Thompson.
There we go.
But
Stephen
it was still,
Thompson.
what happened? He fought in America and he lost. That's why I'm saying he needs to get used to not fighting in Australia. That's another big test for him. All right, let's get to the next fight of the evening. Anthony Pettis, the former lightweight champion, takes on another deadly striker in Edson Barboza Jr. Pettis coming off 2 losses for the first time in his career. He's never lost back-to-back fight before, losing to the likes of Rafa dos Anjos, which was 4 at the time, his championship belt, and then losing a split decision to Eddie Alvarez earlier this year in January. Our Barboza kind of had a tough go of it here lately, losing 2 out of his last 3 fights, a close decision loss to Michael Johnson, and then getting submitted against Tony Ferguson, where he filled in short notice against Tony Ferg. But both are tremendous strikers, 10 of 16 knockouts for Barboza and 7 of 18 knockouts for Pettis, not to mention the tricky submission game that Anthony Showtime Pettis has, actually submitting 8 of his 18 victories by submission. So that's kind of an X factor in this fight, is that if it goes to a scramble, you got to give the submission edge to Pettis. But striking wise, this is about as good as it gets, and I really think it could kind of go either way in that department.
I can't say enough good things about this fight. As a matchup for a fan, don't care whoever win or lose this fight. You're probably gonna end up seeing one of the best pure striking fights in MMA of all time. I mean, these 2 guys, you're gonna see the most spinning shit ever. You're gonna see. I mean, it's really just who cracks first. I think there's no way both of these guys get out of this fight. We're not going to see any grappling exchange unless, dang it, now I'm breaking it down. I'm overthinking. I think if Pettis is smart, he's gonna pull guard here.
Good. And also, Pettis has never been knocked out before. Just throwing that out there.
A big thing to look at is right now, Pettis is coming out of a skid of 2 guys who implemented a good game plan against him, where they have decent wrestling ability to kind of hold Pettis up against the fence and neutralize that stand-up, where Barboza, on the other hand, he doesn't showcase as much of that. But in the past few fights where Barboza is scheduled against a guy who likes to throw and go as crazy just as much with Johnson, Felder, and Ferguson, each of those fights turned into barn burners where Barboza
that Ferguson fight. That's
he
one
is
of the
not
best
afraid.
rounds.
That was probably one of the best fights of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't afraid to just strike with anyone. I mean, that's the thing. Barboza doesn't shy away from a striking competition because usually he's going to win. I think this is the first time where he fought a dude who's on the same level as him striking-wise. I mean, who can, like, with the dexterity and ability to just throw a quick
I will
kick
say, though,
as quick as him.
Maybe it was just something with that fight. I don't think Pettis had the same pop in the Alvarez fight.
Definitely not. I mean, he kind of looked like he was just, fighting for his career at that moment. And just Alvarez just put in a good game plan to just beat him. And Pettis he looked like he couldn't mount anything against him.
I think the X factor in this fight, though, Jim kind of covered there. I didn't even think of that. Pettis has a chin on him, man. If you look at that RDA fight and
it
all
is
the
pretty
shots,
impressive considering all the guys he's fought, and he's never even been finished, let alone knocked out.
Yeah.
All his losses are by decision.
Yeah, that first punch from RDA really messed him up. That knocked out Benson Henderson.
Yeah, he
So,
took
I
some
mean-
shots, and then we've seen Edson get wobbled by jabs and kind of crumble. So I think
that we're going off what you were saying, where Pettis, if he wants to win, he needs to take it to the ground guard. And like you said, it's who cracks first. All Pettis has to do is hit you once, liver, chin, leg. You show a sign of weakness, he can take any limb or your back on your body super, super quick.
underrated submission ability. I mean, look what he did to Benson. How good is
But
Benson?
then Barboza throws crazy fast kicks, like spinning kicks
Are we
too.
all just agreeing this will probably be fight of the
Could
year
be,
contender
could be.
already?
Could be. Co-main event of the evening, flyweight title on the line. The champion, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, once again defending his flyweight title, this time taking on the undefeated former Olympic gold medalist, Henry the Messenger Cejudo. Many people have been heralded as the one guy that could do it, that can beat Mighty Mouse Johnson. I don't know if I'm ready to say that he may be that guy, but I don't know if he's there yet. Mighty Mouse is on a level very few fighters have reached, can reach, or will reach. It's incredible what this guy can do. Pure wrestling, is Henry Cejudo probably a better pure wrestler than Mighty Mouse Johnson? I think so. I mean,
by far.
the guy won a gold medal. That's pretty tough to do in whatever sport you're trying to do. But the way Mighty Mouse transitions between striking and grappling and clinching and submissions and in and out, and the way he studies tape. I mean, he makes it like those sabermetrics where with baseball and stats. Like that's how he breaks things down with Matt Hume. He knows where he's going to be. He knows where you're going to be. He knows what percentage this will happen if I do. I mean, I've seen I don't know if there's any other fighter, maybe some of the Winklejohn guys, but in Greg Jackson, but there are very few other fighters who know who makes it like a numbers game. It's not a fight; it's a numbers game.
Well,
to Mighty Mouse
Matt
Johnson.
Hume and Mighty Mouse is probably the best duo out there.
No, it's like I said,
they work
there are
off
very
each other
few.
so well.
Like I said, Greg Jackson kind of does that a little bit, but I don't know if he has another fighter that does that like a Mighty Mouse does. That's what I'm saying.
You could be a good coach, and you could be an excellent strength and conditioning, anything that you can want, out of Greg Jackson, Winklejohn. Thing is, you have to have a fighter that matches you perfectly as well. A guy who's willing to take what you say, willing to learn, willing to put in the effort, and actually get it down. And Mighty Mouse and Hume have that dynamic, and that's why we've seen so much success with him. And this isn't to try and dismiss Cejudo, but I don't see that with Cejudo and improvements with his coach or his camp. And every Mighty Mouse fight, we see improvements with him.
Yeah,
we see something different.
And also
Cejudo,
the thing,
every fight's kind of, he proved a little.
And another thing, if you're gonna beat Mighty Mouse, I feel like you have to finish him. There's no way you're gonna beat this guy in a 25-minute fight. It's just not. It's not gonna happen. I don't think you can do it. You look at Cejudo's record. He hasn't finished anybody since Gladiator Challenge American Dream in May of 2013. It's been nearly 3 years since he knocked someone out. All those fights are 3-round decisions, with his last one being a splint over Jussier Formiga. Yeah, he can get wins, but if they're very hardly do you see people decision the champ and win. And if there's going to be a champ you're going to decision, it's not this guy. It's not Mighty Mouse.
That is 100% right. It's a great point. He's simply too one-dimensional. You're not just going to out-wrestle Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
Good luck. You out-wrestle him. Now he's on his back. Now he's attacking you.
Yes.
Bagatinov tried that. Look how that turned out. He got kneed with his back up against the cage.
EPO, and he still lost.
Yeah, you're a great wrestler. I give you that. What else does he bring to the table?
Yeah. Cejudo's definitely the best wrestler Johnson's probably fought, but look at Demetrius's only losses. His only 2 losses.
Brad Pickett.
Again,
135.
But then that was also a long time ago when Brad Pickett was notorious for his one-punch power. That's why they call him One Punch.
And then Dominic Cruz, who's 7 inches taller than him.
With another win or two, is arguably like one of the pound-for-pound best fighters right now, ever probably. So Demetrius Johnson, he found a weight he's good at. He fits the weight perfectly. He has no problem cutting to it. He's the perfect reach and dynamic for 125. It leaves him stocky and strong enough, but he's still quick. And it's just like some guys are too big for the weight class, or they're kind of weird at 125. Patty Houlihan was 125, and he was a weird body weight, and then you try moving to 135. Demetrius Johnson, perfect coach, perfect camp, perfect body style. He's literally probably the best fighter outside Dominic Cruz beneath 145 area right now.
It's the athletics are there, the technique is there, the coaching is there, the ability to take in that coaching is there,
and it's not all there for Cejudo.
No,
and that's the difference in this. Yeah. It's all there for Johnson. It isn't for Cejudo.
The only thing left for Johnson, and if you watch that Cruz fight back, he gave Cruz a good fight, and I think if he takes that fight now, it may even go a different way. I think that's the only route Johnson.
I believe Johnson has never lost in fights that was a rematch.
He knocked people out in fights that were rematches, though. I'm just saying.
All right, let's get to the main event. John Jones against OSP, interim light heavyweight championship on the line. OSP has a puncher's chance, but it's pretty much the first round. If it goes past then, I don't believe in OSP's conditioning. Great. Even if he took this fight on a full camp, he's raw, unbridled power. He has to land that early. John Jones, despite the layoff, he was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world for a reason. I don't think, despite taking a year off, the guy's still in the prime of his life. I don't think there's going to be any octagon rust or anything. Maybe he gives OSP a brief feeling out period, but I think eventually he will take it to the Tennessean and probably knock him out in the second or third round. OSP, like I said, has a puncher's chance, but OSP to me has to go for broke in the first round. Maybe that's not the best strategy, but I would throw everything I have at John Jones that first round because I think that's the only chance you have of catching this guy. You should be no sitting back and waiting. There's no tomorrow for OSP. This is his moment. No one expects him to win. He's a 6-1 underdog. He got this, title shot on 3 weeks. Just go for broke, man. Do what you can. If you lose, so what? Everyone expected you to lose. But if you win, my goodness, do your fortunes change.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's just you're not going to go out there and get a decision against John Jones. You're not going to go out there and outgrind John Jones. It's just exactly what you said. OSP has 5 minutes in this fight. He has 5 minutes where he gets submitted. That's the only way this fight goes. I see nothing else for it. OSP's an athlete. He's underrated in that aspect. He's explosive. He can probably knock out anyone, but he has 5 minutes in his gas tank to do it. Otherwise, he gets submitted in the third or fourth round like every other Jones fight we've seen, or Jones holds him against the cage, gets his little decision. There's nothing else you can do here.
Yeah, I have nothing to add because John Jones' talent and ability speak for themselves. So.
All right, well, let's get the picks. UFC 197, Saturday, April 23rd, live from Las Vegas, Nevada on pay-per-view, starting 10 in the East, 7 in the West. Starting in the featherweight division, Yair Rodriguez against Andre Touchy-Fili. I really do like Yair Rodriguez, but I like the grappling ability and, of course, the camp there in Team Alpha Male. I think Andre Fili will be ready for Rodriguez, so give me Touchy in this one.
I'm also gonna go with Touchy. I feel like it's too. I really, really, really love Yair, and I was on the hype train. But I mean, when you look at it on paper right now, Touchy-Fili is he has that added dynamic.
Nah, Alpha Male's falling apart. No one knows who's friends with who. They're all getting butt hurt. Yair's gonna come out there and submit Touchy-Fili just so you guys never question him off his back again.
Robert Whitaker against Rafael Natal, matchup of 2 top 15 middleweights in the next fight of the evening. Billy, your pick.
Caught me off guard. Robert Whitaker, he outstrikes him, knocks him out in the second.
Jim, your pick.
Ooh, okay, I like that. I was going to pick the upset, but I'm not. I'm going to take Robert Whitaker.
Yeah, let's not do upsets tonight, all right?
Not here, not this one.
Robert Whitaker.
I like Robert Whitaker too much. I really liked him on the show.
Just for obvious reasons. He's number 7, Rafael's number 13.
Anthony Pettis against Edson Barboza. I think you guys know my pick, so I'm going to move on to your guys' 2 picks here.
Pass it back to Jim.
Yeah, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Barboza.
Anthony Pettis.
man.
Wow. All right.
Okay.
I'm picking Edson here, man. I think it's his time to shine. Edison has been on a slow little decline. I think he's cracking mentally.
All right, you guys going crazy and picking Cejudo?
There's been so many upsets as of late, but I just feel like this is the card where it's not going to happen. So I'm going with Mighty Mouse. I mean, I don't even feel like my hands are tied, honestly.
It could happen, but if I'm going to sit here and tell you that you can't bet on Mighty Mouse Johnson, you're just betting on a wild underdog.
5
if you
straight
pick
rounds.
Cejudo. I mean,
it's like, that's tough.
when have you seen Cejudo go 5?
I don't even think he did that in Legacy. I don't think.
Exactly.
And
I don't think I'd have
Mighty
to
Mouse is
double
the
check,
king.
but-
So until then, you have to go Mighty
Get him on
Mouse.
Twitch.
Mighty Mouse. John Jones, OSP. I like the fact he has a puncher's chance. I like OSP. He's a likable guy, but it's John Jones. I mean, that's the pick.
The only real X factor in this fight, because Jones has a chin on him. I don't even want to pick him because of puncher's chance. If all this stuff outside of the cage has really affected John Jones, and will we see the same John Jones?
I feel like it has affected him, and we won't see the same John Jones because he's going to be better than he was before, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. I feel like a bloodbath might go down, and it's kind of going to leave people like kind of speechless, like, oh man, DC really has something coming for him. I think it's an obvious unanimous pick where we're all going with this one. So
Yeah, I'm going to pick John. I really want OSP to win, but
I could see it happening. Like, I agree with Jim. I can see the puncher's chance happening. The problem is OSP didn't look great in his last fight, where John Jones consistently provides. I mean, and if he can win a fight against Gustafsson without training, 2 years of not train, or like a year or so of like basically not really in an active fight camp.
I mean, if he can be cured of a drug habit after 1 day of rehab, I mean,
yeah,
dude's
nothing he can't-
incredible.
I mean,
So I mean,
that's pretty good.
we know what's going down.
All right. Any other final thoughts, Billy, before we end the show?
did anyone anyone make fun of Jared Rochold this week? Because I feel like we have to force a joke every time for
He
him.
probably got denied a bank.
He's probably going to fight
who
Steve
knows?
Singh next for Risen.
there we
Steve Singh's
go.
coming off a loss, so that's going to happen next.
I feel like we have to force one in every week.
Jared Rochalt's on the like a 10-fight win streak, but no one cares yet.
Probably going to be Bellator heavyweight champion next. He's going to beat Chuck
boy.
Kondo by boring decision.
Man, he probably has. Yeah, I'm right. Let's start.
All right. He is Billy Brand. You can follow him on Twitter at WBrand21. Final thoughts, Colin?
It's a good time to be alive.
All right. There you go. Colin Camper running our Facebook page, facebook.com/BeyondTheCage Podcast. We are 50. No, not 52. That's wrong.
Like
Well,
our
that's
page.
30 something, 37.
42.
42.
42 likes away from 500.
We're
When we
creeping
hit
up pretty
500,
slow.
we are giving away 9 signed
They're
photos.
cool. They're cool. They're good
Yeah.
quality.
And I'll say this right here on the air. If we get to 500 by Glory 30, which is about a month
What?
away, people, I'm adding in a signed Joe Schilling photo.
Hey.
Woo!
Okay, I might have to make a new Facebook
I'm putting the
account.
pressure.
I'm
Hey,
doubling
on
on that.
To
people.
all the fools out there who are sharing it beforehand, listen,
I'm
dude.
putting it on
we
there.
got to hit 500 likes first. Don't go around sharing it and then get butthurt because suddenly no one's picked.
Hey,
We
gotta
got to
get
get
there.
500 likes first.
yeah.
I've seen
that's
like
how it
3
works.
people share it thinking they're going to enter the contest. If you're going to share it, say something on like, hey, go like this so we can get 500 likes.
All right. Real quickly, thanks to our friends at MMAforlife.ca, MMAinsider.net. Of course, the Facebook blog, MMA Fight Club. Our good friend Gorilla the Bear with his great artwork there. Am I missing anyone? MMAFreak.com, AJ Hiller, MMA Signatures USA. He has some great stuff coming in. Speaking of John Jones, he just had John Jones on some stuff for him if you didn't check out his Twitter page. So if you're looking for John Jones stuff, AJ's got you covered. I'm your host, Jim Gramm. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Gramm. So for Billy, Colin, and myself, thank you again for listening to another edition of Beyond the Cage.